Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you, Dr. Vikas. So yesterday session was wonderful session. Dr. A.K. Bakshi highlighted the various issues related to the online teaching and the MOOCs, that is massive online open courses, which we need to now introduce as a part of curriculum. But before moving forward, we would like to have feedback and review from our participants. So today I have requested two participants, which are very senior people also. One is Dr. Shashi Bala, who is working as an associate professor in commerce at Government College Tanda, which is in the district of Hoshiarpur, Punjab. She is a vast experience and doctorate from Punjab University, Chandigarh, and working to teach students in the area of rural background, because Tanda is a city which is surrounded by the so many villages, and most of the students belongs to the villages also. So first I request Dr. Shashi Bala to review the first session, which was of Dr. A.K. Bakshi. Dr. Shashi, over to you now. You can unmute yourself. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwani Bhalla. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. President PCMA, Dr. Ashwani Bhalla, and Vice President Dr. B.B. Singla, and Secretary Dr. Vikasdeep. First of all, I would like to congratulate Punjab Commerce and Management Association for such academic endeavors, especially focusing on the theme Innovative Methods for Virtual Classroom Teaching, a Road to MOOCs, a very relevant topic. And I feel here highly privileged to review the session by a very learned personality and intellectual of such a stature, Dr. A.K. Bakshi, who dealt at length in his deliberations on the topic, Technology-Enabled Higher Education in India, Challenges and Opportunities. In fact, we are living in the digital era, and technology is embracing every field of life. So education can not be an exception. And moreover, it has an added advantage too, because it is bringing education to the doorsteps of students. So these themes, which have been dealt at length by PCMA, by arranging such learned personalities to teach the teaching faculty, so that we prepare ourselves for the future, so that we become updated and we bring ourselves to a level that we can deal with future generations. Dr. Bakshi coined the term anytime learning. This is what is the added advantage of this innovative online teaching, e-learning, preparing e-learning content in the form of MOOCs. Dr. Bakshi dealt at length what are the benefits we are going to have from information communication technology in higher education area. He told in his deliberations that ICT is going to impact the research area, ICT is going to impact the classroom teaching, ICT is going to impact the assessments of the students, ICT is going to impact the pedagogical innovations. So these are the very vast areas where higher education, where these innovations are going to bring all the changes. And the teacher of the future is going to be of such type that if the teacher has not updated himself or herself, he is going to be kicked out. So we have to prepare ourselves. Now we are to shift ourselves from that chalk and talk method of teaching to blended method of teaching, and then to flipped method of teaching. So Dr. Bakshi explained all the intricacies in very detailed manner, that how MOOCs can be developed, and he also referred to the SWAM platform where their university has updated 50 such courses, and how ICT is going to impact the teachers in the form of refresher courses, so that the teaching faculty may also be updated. So for this he referred to the ARPIT platform, and for which what is the beauty of this information and communication technology, that he explained that when teachers come and they used to attend their refresher courses, and there used to be a limit fixed on the teachers attending these refresher courses. But the beauty of this ICT is that all the teachers in one go can be refreshed in the form of various updated courses if this is being implemented. So this is going to be the future of higher education, and Dr. Bakshi also dealt that if we are to be successful in future in higher education, we have to become proactive, not reactive. So we have to bear the pain of gaining knowledge rather than to bear the pain of being regretful later on. I would like to end this analysis in the last, what the message conveyed by Dr. A.K. Bakshi was that there are apprehensions among the teaching fraternity that technology is going to replace the teachers. No, technology can never replace the teachers. Technology can never do like this, because technology is an enabler. The teachers are going to use this technology for updating, for disseminating this information to the far-flung areas, to those unprivileged, I would like to say, living in remote areas, those who cannot have access to the teachers, to the quality teaching. They can have access to the quality teaching through these innovative methods, through these information and communication ICT methodologies. So teachers are not going to be replaced by technology, but definitely the teachers who are not tech savvy, the teachers who have not used technology, they would definitely be replaced by those who have used technology. They would definitely replace the teachers, those who have not used technology. So to be successful teachers in future, we will have to be tech savvy, we will have to be proactive, we will have to take action in time, otherwise we will be outdated. So future is going to be the future of online education. We are going to have, since he referred that we have entered the industrial revolution 4, which is going to be the revolution of artificial intelligence. So that we have to prepare our students, to face the type of future we are going to face. So we have to prepare, prepare our students to face that type of situation of artificial intelligence. Otherwise, as we say that there is a lot of unemployment. Unemployment is not there. There are so many jobs. The only thing is that we have to match the supply with demand. So we have to prepare our students in such a manner that they will adjust themselves in the future job market. For that, teachers will have to be tech savvy, and they will have to disseminate such knowledge to the students. With this, I would like to end my review of the session. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Shashi, for giving the insights of the yesterday's lectures. So now we move to Dr. Amanjot Sachdeva from University of Delhi to review the second session. Dr. Amanjot Sachdeva. Dr. Amanjot, can you hear me? Yes. Unmute yourself. Dr. Vikas, whether she has been made co-host or not.
Yes, sir. She's co-host. I think, ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. A very good evening to you all, respectable office bearers of PCMA, all organizers, invited guests, and my dear participants. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to give a review of the session yesterday, Handshake with Blackboard LMS. So this session, it was a wonderful, very engaging session by Dr. Praveen Gill, Professor and Program Coordinator, Humber College, Toronto. And I would like to begin with a quote by Peter Thiel, who has said that today's best practices lead to dead ends. The best practices, the best paths are new and untried. And we would like to thank Dr. Praveen Gill for her thoroughly illuminating session and engaging session, which showed us in a very fun and friendly way this new path of learning the Blackboard LMS. So, well, I think all this talk on the new platforms makes us realize that technology has to be part of our curriculums and it does not have to be an add-on, right? And using a online learning system has to be the key differentiator for institutions, because that is going to make one institution distinguish itself better from the other. So how those systems are being used, that's very important. And ma'am has made us learn about Blackboard in a very fun and interesting manner and in a very interactive manner. She told us about the live polling app, which is used to get feedback from the student, instant feedback from the students, and which gives the insight to the professor or the teacher to know what the students want and tailor the discussion, in the way desired. Also, the learning outcomes based curriculum and the critical path, they help the teacher become more focused and organized. The use of whiteboard in the Blackboard, which was made very colorful by the participants, like that is also a very interesting tool. And using of breakout groups to divide the class into groups and carry on sessions and exercises with them, again that was a very interesting tool which normally you don't get in other learning management systems. So personally, I have been teaching students through use of Google Classroom and Google Meet, Zoom, etc. But I've really found this Blackboard LMS very interesting, and I intend to use it with my students. And I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Praveen for the wonderful session, which was very engaging. And she has explained the nuances of the Blackboard LMS very clearly and very lucidly and in a very fun way. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I also thank the PCMA office bearers and other organizers for creating this very enabling environment for learning, both offline and online. Thank you so much.
Minute, please. So I think when she's using various platforms already in her institution, and her experience is going to be wonderful for everybody in the PCMA also. So thank you, Dr. Amanjot. So we'll be now moving to our new speaker, the next speaker, Dr. Parvinder Arora ji, will be joining in a couple of minutes with us. So, but before we move to that, there are certain issues which has been raised by Dr. Bakshi yesterday, and even then Dr. Praveen also, that the learning management system in our educational institutions was not in place before the COVID-19. We were having a traditional system of teaching where everything was not structured. We were having just following the syllabi of the university prescribed, and that after that allocation of classes, and then having a timetable, and then taking classes in the colleges and universities. But now, after listening to Dr. Bakshi and even Dr. Gill, it has been established that we have to do a lot of other things now. As Dr. Gill yesterday told us that when they have a plan to teach to the students in the next semester, but beforehand they do lot of preparations. That means they structure their lecture. First they prepare the content, then after that they give technology part to the content. After that they prepare their lectures in a sophisticated manner. They organize their tests beforehand. They prepare all the things in beforehand. So therefore we need to establish a learning management system in our institutions. The basic purpose of this program is to prepare you so that you can compel in your institutions to the academic administrators, whatever they are, whether they are principals or they are head of the departments or our even higher level administration, that we have to prepare ourselves with the learning management system that should be in place, whether it is a requirement of the infrastructure, whether it is a requirement of the soft part of the technology. All these things need to be organized well in advance. This COVID-19 has given us a new kind of experiences, because earlier we were running the system like just it is flowing water in the river, but now there are number of bottlenecks. So therefore it is very important that we must prepare ourselves. So here the preparation is needed from different angles. As a teacher we have to prepare, as I have been talking in so many platforms, that our teachers, this is a time for us, because UGC has said that from November we will be going to start the educational classes in the form of online. So that means we have a time now. We must structure our content first, and then connect this structure, this content with the technology. That means either you prepare your lectures in advance in the form of recorded lectures, you may place it on the YouTube, or you may structure your lecture in such a way that you can give these lectures on the platform of Zoom or Cisco WebEx meetings or through Blackboard. So all the preparations are now needed. Many people are now crying that if this continue, their salaries will be blocked, and the government may think of shunting out the teachers from the educational institution. This is not going to happen. Your job is very much secure, because as already said by Dr. Bakshi, that the technology is not going to replace the teachers, but the teachers who are going to use the technology for teaching purposes, they are going to replace those teachers which are not in a mood to use the technology. So this sensitization is necessary from the teacher's point. So as UGC has already said that 25% of the content of the teaching will be online from the next academic session. But if this pandemic situation continues, I am afraid we have to focus 100% on this. So I think Dr. Bakshi has very well sensitized the teaching community through its lectures. When it was put on the YouTube, I have received so many lectures, so many calls and comments on that this is a wonderful thing which the Dr. Bakshi has done. Secondly, we have to sensitize our students also, because the preparedness to adopt the technology from the students' point of view is very necessary these days. Because yesterday Dr. Bakshi also talked about democratization of the technology, because we have to ensure this inclusive development and inclusive availability of technology to all students. There are a number of complaints that internet is not reaching to the villages. They don't have the gadgets to use the technology. So all these things are there, which we have to cope up. Here, the role of the society, role of the government, role of the educational institution is going to be sharpened here. So these are the things which we must focus, I think, in the present day time. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. Dr. Prem Kumar yesterday talked about artificial intelligence. So now we are criticizing this technology, saying that artificial intelligence will replace our teaching community. All these are apprehensions. And surely all those teachers who are hesitant of using the technology, who are not ready to prepare themselves with the use of technology to deliver to the students, definitely they are going to be replaced. They are going to be shunted out from the educational institution. This is a very, very alarming situation for all of us. So I think we should focus
Doctor
on
has
this.
joined, sir.
So our speaker, Dr. Parvinder Arora ji, has already joined us. So Vikas ji, kindly make him co-host.
I've done that, sir.
After introducing to Dr. Parvinder, we can start the session. So today we have very, very intelligent, I think, energetic, very intelligent asset of India, which has been lended to the government of Canada these days, and he is with us. He is my friend also, my teacher also, my guide also, and he is always attached with us when he was in India. But thanks to the technology that we are meeting today after so many years. So let me introduce to Dr. Parvinder to all of you. Dr. Parvinder, a PhD in accounting and finance, is an experienced academician and academic administrator with a demonstrated history of performing leadership role in higher education sectors in the countries like Singapore, Australia, Canada, and the UAE. Skilled in cost management, financial analysis, and corporate valuation with a strong professional consulting background, Parvinder is currently Chair School of Business at Cambrian College, Canada. So welcome to you, sir, on this platform. And I'm very thankful on behalf of Punjab Commerce and Management Association and on my personal behalf that you accepted our invitation and ready to deliberate our students and teachers, particularly teachers who are now ready to move on to the online teaching and new teaching methodologies because of this pandemic situation. So the overall map of education and higher education in India is also changing. When you used to be there teaching in Punjabi University Patiala, teaching in Punjab University Chandigarh, teaching in IMT Ghaziabad, and then moved to SP Jain Center of Management at Singapore, and then moved to the various countries. Now you have a wide experience of using this technology, and I hope your insights and your valuable inputs to our teachers, particularly on case method of teaching, how to teach it virtually, is going to be benefited for all of us. Over to Dr. Parvinder.
Well, thank you so much, Ashwani. Good evening to everyone. I know it's 4:30, right, in India?
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for the introduction, Ashwani. I appreciate, and it's good to connect with you after so many years. Thanks to the technology and thanks to the crisis, right? Sometimes what we call is that take benefit of the crisis. So you are the person who's taking benefit of the crisis, connecting
Yes.
everyone with everyone. So everything has a flip side and everything has a positive side. So we should always look for the positive side. And thank you so much for asking me, and thanks for the introduction. Yeah, when sometimes when people introduce me that I worked in this institution and then this institution and then moved on to that institution, some of the audience may think that I was fired so many times that I had to look for a new job. Right? There's so many changes in the career, but yeah, but sometimes it is being greedy. So I've been greedy and always looked for, okay, where can I get a little more money, a little more exposure? So been moving on, and yeah, currently in Canada, and I hope I stay here for some time. Well, good evening, everyone. Let me first, so So Ashwani asked me, sorry Ashwani, two points of apology here. Number one, I'm calling you Ashwani, not Dr. Bhalla or Dr. Ashwani.
Yes,
I don't want to make it very
wonderful, sir. It's wonderful.
So, and secondly, I'm not wearing the formals you are wearing. It is a Saturday morning, 7 o'clock in Canada, and it is my breakfast time. So I'm still in my breakfast dress. And Saturday, we're not supposed to wear formals. So forgive me on that. So I'm here in absolute casuals with you. So I knew that, Ashwani, for the, if you remember, when the PCMA was launched, so we were there together, right? So, you've taken PCMA to this level. Congratulations to you. And to the team who you work with. And I know that I've not been in touch with PCMA for a few years now, but it's good to be back now, at least a bit. So wonderful to be there in India, doing some workshop or some conference, in India after so many years. It's a little nostalgic for me, and I'm a little nervous also looking at 109 participants joining in, listening to me, and that means if everybody asks one question, I will have to answer 109 questions. That is my quota for a whole month. So that makes me a little nervous, but I'm okay. I mean, I would love to interact with you. So to everyone, welcome to this session, but I want to set the expectations straight. I'm not an expert on teaching how to teach with cases. I'm a big user of case teaching. I've been using cases for the last 10 years, and I will be happy to share my experiences with you. Ask me, let's make it interactive, or let's make it a dialogue rather than that one-way traffic of me telling you how to use cases. Maybe I may have had a little more experience than some of you in terms of teaching with cases and teaching with cases in online format. So I will be happy to share my experience. I will be happy to answer your questions that how do I deal with the situations which you may be dealing. It is not necessary that my answers are universal and everything works everywhere, because we have so much of diversity in terms of who your students are, what kind of situation you are in, and what kind of group you are dealing with, and at what program level. So it changes, So I will be happy to share my experiences. I will be happy to answer your questions to the best possible extent, and the greedy part of accepting Ashwani's, invitation was that whenever you go to this type of audience, which is, full of researchers and teachers who teach in commerce and management, it is a learning exercise for me. I mean, that's the purpose of going to any conference or workshop, whether you are delivering a session or whether you are receiving a session. So when Ashwani asked me, my immediate reaction was, let me see how people are dealing with one, online teaching, and secondly, how do they do case method in Indian context. I've had interactions with people from various institutions. I just attended a conference in the USA, a virtual conference in the USA, where the focus was on how do we orient our faculty towards new methods of teaching. And but that was one of the reasons why I said, okay, let's do this so that I can hear from you guys and learn from you, and maybe a few things which you shared with me will be applicable in Canadian context also, which I can go back and share with my faculty. So that is the reason. I would be happy. First, we'll start talking about few things about case teaching, and it is not per se online case teaching. Let's first we'll start with the few things about case teaching, the fundamentals of case teaching, and then probably we can move on to understanding how it will be or it is different in in virtual or online context. I don't use the term online most often. I use the term virtual because, I mean, it may not be, it's just maybe because there are some connotations attached to online teaching, you know, where you develop some stuff, put it on website or some learning management system, and then the students are on their own. Here, thanks to this crisis, you've been interacting, most of us been interacting with our students using the technology. So we will see that what are the, you know, what are the fundamentals of case-based teaching, and how, what can be the challenges, you know, when you are doing it in a virtual setting, whether you are using it synchronously or you using it asynchronously. So that will be my agenda, and interrupt me in between. I don't want to go with that standard method of talking first and then you asking me questions. Just stop me. You know, it's a big group, and I don't know how Ashwani has set it up, whether they will raise hands or, you know, put the questions in the chat. Either ways, I'm going to share with you a Padlet link. If you can put something on the Padlet so that everybody can see what your question is. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of making a presentation, what happens is the chat gets lost. You know, I can understand Vikas or Ashwani may be monitoring that chat, but yes, then I may not know. Because you can stop me in case there is a question which needs immediate attention. You know, we'll stop.
Right, right, sir.
And I'm going to share a link with you, which is let me see if it is it works. You know, I've just shared a Padlet link. So if you can just click on that, you will have that. Let me know if it works. So
it is in the chat.
It is in the chat. Just click on that link. Oh, it has gone to Parvinder only. Let me put.
Yes, please make it to everyone, sir.
Yeah, it's there. Can you see that?
Yes, sir. We click that, sir.
But it is not working.
No, it's working, sir. For me, it's working. My brilliant Padlet, sir.
It should be working. So it's a yes, blank template. You click anywhere. For example, if you see, I just click this. Like you click anywhere. And
it's a pink screen.
Hello is written on that.
Yeah, it has hello over that.
Yeah. So anybody, so this is a pad that we can use. So I can see plenty of hellos. So whenever somebody has something to say, just put it on the Padlet. Everybody can see it. Less populated, you know. And when we start with some questions and answers, it's better if you put your questions here rather than chat. So, you know, it will not, you know, interrupt the Zoom. Sometimes if you're making a presentation, the chat gets hidden. So that is why I generally use Padlet. So it will be easy for us. And if you have a specific question, and again, whatever you write here, the anonymous, but if you want me to address you personally, just write who is asking this question, because Padlet has this beautiful feature. It is most of the comments which you put on Padlet is anonymous, so any participant can write anything. If I have shared link with you, I hope it makes sense, Vikas. So we can use Padlet for populating. Okay, so. Before we start on, how many of you have used cases in teaching? So if you can, let's say let's put it on the Padlet. You know, just write you know, yes or no. How many of you have used in your teaching, not online, otherwise? And secondly, at what level? Is it at graduate level or is it at undergraduate level? Sorry, I'm using wrong terms. In India, we use the terms graduate and postgraduate. So which is bachelor's and master's level, right? So in North America, we use graduate. Graduate means postgraduate in India, and undergraduate is graduate in India. So how many of you have used the cases, in your teaching? So that will give me an idea. Then I can go through some of the basic fundamentals of case teaching, and then we can look at some of the specific aspects of what happens when we go online. So it will be easy for me. If all of you are experts in, yes, Dr. Gulati?
Sir, I think everybody is on mute. Should I unmute everybody? Or should I give the rights?
You can unmute. Make it live.
I'll give the rights everybody to unmute themselves. Otherwise, please keep yourself on mute. Just 18 minutes.
So I can see some of you are, yes, Dr. Gulati, you wanted to say something about raising hand?
Because
Yes, sir. I have allowed everybody to unmute
I think now it is done.
Audible.
Audible. Okay. Dr. Arora, make it convenient to put your that kind of a thing on the screen. Is it possible? Because if we enter the link, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming, but it is not making us able to write something on there.
Okay.
Yes.
But I wanted to run my presentation simultaneously, so that is why I was using Padlet. So
I think it will be helping more.
Yeah. So never mind. So I'm still not ready.
As far as your query is concerned, I am head of the Department of University Business School in GNDU. So we are having case study pedagogy with us.
Very good, sir. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining. Nice meeting you.
Thanks. Same here.
So there are. So I can see that at the postgraduate level, at undergraduate level, perfect. So we have people who have used cases or who are using cases currently. So when I start my conversation on case teaching fundamental, then please correct me wherever I'm wrong, because you may be using it differently, and there are methods of using this. So I'll share my opinion the way I use it, and please add a little bit of value. Let me know how do you do things differently. So let's start with a few things, and then maybe I have some questions. And again, we have this Padlet where you can put your answers. So let me just start my presentation. So I will have to stop, sharing this screen. I'll go back to this.
Right, sir. No issues.
Yeah. Okay. So we are ready. Can you see my my presentation here? Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And again, please forgive me if it sounds like a lecture or preaching. It is just sharing of ideas, and it is based on few sources which I refer to. Some of the things I have picked up from the workshops which I attended as a participant. So I've been fortunate to attend a case teaching workshop at Harvard Business School and at Ivy Business School. Both are the proponents of case method of teaching. So some of the things I picked up from those workshops, and I'll share with you, what they teach and what they want, because they are the biggest case sellers in the world. And what do they want you to do with those cases which you buy from them? So there will be references, and as I said, please stop me in between in case you have any questions using either the chat or so Vikas, please monitor Padlet for me in case I miss on anything. Just sound me on.
Right, sir. I'll do that, sir. I'll do that, sir.
Yeah, so that will be easy. So I have it in front of me. So, but still I may miss something on this. So Case-based teaching, again, it is not new, as it's going on for quite a number of years. And thanks to this crisis, now people are talking about case-based teaching in online environment or in virtual setting. I remember the first online course where I used cases was around 5 years ago. And I attended a workshop where people were actually shouting at each other that it cannot work in online. And now at least that debate has ended because we don't have an alternative, right? We're not in a position of deciding whether to use this or not. So, when you are teaching, it just that you have to pick up one or two, the pedagogy which suits your style of teaching. And case-based teaching is one of those pedagogies. To me, teaching is teaching, and case teaching is case teaching, whether it is face-to-face, online, virtual, synchronous, asynchronous. What you have to do is you have to make some changes. But at least I'm happy. I remember that in that conference, when we went on case teaching conference, and some people were talking about teaching cases online, and that was, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And then there was a big group of researchers and faculty members, and who had absolute opposition. The case teaching doesn't work in online because it requires some certain amount of engagement, certain amount of interaction, and online is not possible. And I don't know, good or bad, but what has happened is, due to the recent crisis, at least that debate has died down. And now people are exploring how can we use it effectively. So which means one thing is given, that if it is a case, people are using case-based teaching, they want to continue using cases in their teaching pedagogy. And now only thing is they have to find out how to make it effective in a virtual and online setting. And that's what we try. That's what Ashwani is trying with your group. That's what we're trying when we organize faculty workshop for our faculty members. We just finished 2 weeks ago. So right now the issue is not whether it is possible to use cases in online teaching or not. Now it is, how do we do it? So as simple as that. And one of the thing is that going back to fundamentals of how to teach with cases. So, and then we see that, okay, what are the special challenges when we goes online? So again, so my presentation, most of the things which I'm going to talk about is going back to the basics of case-based teaching, and then accumulating your thoughts, getting your understanding from you that if some of you are doing it online, how do you do it? And then I can share my ideas. When I do online, how do I do it? So I'm currently whatever courses I'm teaching, how do I do it? And then maybe a little bit of one step, higher than the case teaching. People are moving from cases to simulations now. So I'll share some ideas on some of the simulations which are used. So let's. There are different names. People have used different names for case-based teaching. In one of the papers I found that it's called discussion-based teaching. Sometimes the Harvard Business School organizes a workshop.
Should I mute everybody, sir?
Yeah, mute everyone.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mute,
mute everyone.
So please, Dr. Parvinder, please unmute yourself.
Just give me a minute.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was on the other screen. Actually, I'm using two screens. So Harvard Business School calls it participant-centered learning, and case-based teaching is part of that participant-centered learning. I understand that many of the faculty members, I don't know if anybody sitting here, many of the faculty members from Indian schools, when I was there, they have attended that workshop by Harvard Business School, but most of them were from business schools, where they teach MBA programs. And it is, sometimes it is also called as problem-based teaching, so where, again, different researchers, if you go through some of the the research in the area of case-based teaching, it is referred to with different names. And I don't know, you will be, it will be interesting to share with you that my first workshop or training which I attended on case-based teaching was in Singapore, and it was not in a business school. It was in a Duke Medical Center, which is a medical college of Singapore University and Duke University collaboration. So because the case-based teaching has been very popular with the health sciences, people teaching in health sciences as well as law. So in fact, if you see, I think if we see in Indian context, teaching law was always done using cases, but it is the cases which have happened. So they call it case law. Whatever you call it, the basic focus of case-based teaching is participant-centered engagement. It is the conventional teaching is from faculty to students. Here it is a two-way traffic, and if you are doing case-based teaching and you're doing using the cases, I know some of the faculty members who use the cases to tell a story, who use the case to bring home a point. But that's not the basis of why people switch to case-based teaching. Case-based teaching is always participation, engagement. In fact, the first basic, if you go through some of the articles written on the advantages of case-based teaching, it is to enhance the audience participation in the learning process. So whatever name you call it, the focus of that is that the focus shifts from the faculty or the trainer to the trainee or the student. So that's the, and if you are doing cases, I have visited many classes of my peers, of the people I work with, and sometimes the case is used to enhance the way you teach, but the case is not used the way case should be used. I mean, it has to be engagement oriented, participant oriented. So that is a basic philosophy behind how do we engage people, how do we let, and especially in business education, it is how do we teach the students decision making, because each case. So I'll talk about the different types of cases which you may have. So it is getting opinion of the faculty of the students, and then helping them to relate their opinion or their analysis with the principle which you're trying to teach. So it has to be audience oriented rather than speaker oriented. It can be in the context, as I said earlier, there was always a debate. Can cases work in online? Now we're not talking about it. Cases have worked face to face. Yes, there's people are very comfortable using cases in the context of face to face teaching. But it works in every context, whether it is online, face to face, small class, large class. Only thing is you have to create that context. How do you use that case? What is the point you're trying to bring home? End of the day, especially in a structured teaching, end of the day, what matters is what are the learning objectives or the learning outcomes you want the students to meet, and then cases just work as a medium of making the students achieve those outcomes. So it's just that you have to develop that context. The mantra of success in case teaching is I was just reading this piece by Anderson, and it says 2/3 of your success as a case teacher revolves around how well you prepare in advance. And this is my warning to all my colleagues who want to jump into this. Believe me, if you want to do the cases the way people do cases, sorry, it requires much more, it requires a higher degree of preparation. Preparing for the case, but the only positive side is once you have prepared the case for your first time, next time it becomes so very easy. So, but it requires good amount of preparation on both the faculty as well as the students. So it's slightly different from, and I can tell you if I'm teaching, so generally I teach a course on finance or I teach a course on valuation. So when I'm teaching it, in a conventional way, it is much easier because I'm teaching this for last 10, 15 years, the same course. And the only thing is I have to just get up, get ready, put my clothes on, go to the classroom and start talking. And then you have all those questions which you have solved in the class last so many years. It becomes so easy. But if you're using a cases, if you're using a case study, you will always see that case study is all about putting the students into a situation and asking them what would be your decision. And then believe me, the decision change with the time, the decision change with the geography, and the students, the way students address those problems in the case, it depending on, and I don't know how many of you actually are teaching outside Punjab, but if you're teaching in different places, the context is different. When I use the same case, for example, I shared a case study with Ashwani. He must have shared it with you. And idea is not to solve that case today. Idea is that we can use that piece as if you're teaching that and in your class, how will you be doing that? What kind of things you have to take care. So if I use that case when I teach a course in an Austrian university where I'm a visiting professor, the students connect with that case like this because it's based on a company which they are aware of, and they are able to connect with this. But if I do this case in Canada, again, it will be easy for the students because they can relate with the ski resorts. But if I'm doing this case back home in India, and people, and especially in Punjab, they most possibly will not know the characteristics of a ski resort and what are the challenges faced by a ski resort. So, as I said, even if you've done that case, believe me, when you go to the class next time, and if you're using the same case, you have to have higher amount of participation. Another example I will take is, I remember one of the training programs which I was doing back home when I was in Singapore, and suddenly you have some smart people sitting in your class and you want to do a case study, and you kept 75 minutes to discuss that case, but those smart people, they know everything about that case in 15 to 20 minutes. Then you have to be ready and the case has no boundaries. Then you have to be ready with those questions. You have to be ready with the context that case can be discussed in. For example, we'll talk about the case which I gave you. I would like to learn that, which course will you use that case? And then I'll share with you that which courses I have used that case in. So you have to be ready, you have to be ready. If your students are very well prepared, sometimes they will cut your work short, and then you have to be ready to add that additional value, So preparation is the key when it comes to case-based teaching. Again, I don't say that we don't prepare when we are teaching in a conventional way. What I'm saying is the effort is little more when it comes to case-based teaching. Believe me, and some of you who use cases, you will probably vouch with what I'm saying when it comes to. And that is why you will see that the faculty who have not used cases much, and when they are asked to, I don't know, your institutions are asking, but some of for example, when I was in SPGen, it was, Vandana, I will come back to you. So when I was in SPGen, we consciously decided that everybody we have to follow this case method teaching. And that is why all the faculty was sent to workshops, training, training sessions to learn how best to utilize. Develop courses around cases. Yeah, Vandana, because Vandana has a question.
I'll unmute her.
Yeah.
Unmute only to Vandana.
Yes, sir. Vandana, you can ask. Vandana, you can ask question.
Vandana, you can ask your question.
No, sir.
There's no question. I think she wrongly put her hand. Sir.
Okay, hands up. Okay. Let's move on. Now, this is my question number one. Those of you, I can see so many people attending, and some of you are already teaching with cases, and some of you probably are thinking of using with teaching with cases. My question to you is, why do you want to do that? What is prompting you to use cases? And those of you who are already using the cases, what makes it better pedagogy? Why is that's my question? And can we use Padlet? And if we can get some ideas which are different from what I think is the uses of cases, is it okay?
Sir, may I?
Yeah, please.
Sir, I'm teaching at the University of Delhi. It's an undergrad management course, BMS. Sir, the students are just not content with taking in the theoretical stuff. When they come to the classroom, what they want is the practical approach to things, the applied orientation, and that is why they tell us straight off that the theory we will read, the theory we'll go through, but we want the practical application. So what they want is the case discussion. So that makes us imperative that we have to take up cases.
Okay.
We don't have a choice.
Yeah, of course. That's the application. Okay. Anybody else? So I'm just writing the responses on the top of Padlet. So
can I say something, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, probably like what I think is there are two kinds of jobs. One is run-of-the-mill, what we call mundane jobs, and another is creative jobs where you require analytical ability. And the way the AI and ICT is coming up, I think the run-of-the-mill jobs, they'll go off, and the people, they have to be more creative for being industry ready. So I think for enhancing their creativity and analytical ability, it's very important that we must shift over to case teaching methodology.
Can I say something, sir? Hello.
Yes, yes.
So this is Dr. Banu, and case teaching, according to me, is to introduce the concept and create a mindset for a student, so that in the upcoming delivery of a class, he can re-implement back the case what we have discussed, and he can practically think over and understand the concept easily. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
I think in place of a traditional method of teaching, case teaching method put you in a certain environment and allow you to apply your mind to have certain kind of solutions. Otherwise, if you are just teaching in the class without any problematic area, then you may not be able to inculcate such kind of thing which are required in specialized courses or in training.
Exactly. I want to add what Dr. Bhalla has said. It pertains to interpretive part of the concepts which we teach in the class as a concept to the students. As Dr. Arora has rightly said, that cultural aspect of the student also depends in the preparation.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, yes, Madam Shashi.
Sir, I would like to add here. I think this case teaching is just like flipped learning, as Dr. Bakshi referred to yesterday, that you are to understand something beforehand and then we discuss it in the class or whenever we get together in the form of teacher and taught relationship. So I think this is understanding before and then analyzing the things and then practically implementing the things. This is, I think, a flipped learning process, which is going to be the learning process in future.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Dr. Leena. I feel case study teaching, that is a thought-provoking process, and when the students are placed in a role of decision maker, that is, that is the position when they can analytically think and try to resolve the problem. I think one of the greatest advantages of using case study teaching methods. Thank you.
Anybody else?
And there is one comment,
Yes, sir.
Harpreet, that in most of the B.Ed colleges we have the case method of teaching, and even in the Central Board of Secondary Education at +1 and +2 level, the case method of teaching has been introduced and case studies have been introduced as a part of the curriculum. But the unfortunate part is that most of these case studies are left to the students itself to learn, and no preparation from the teacher side. So I think this lecture is going to be valuable for all of us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashwani.
Yes, sir. May I speak, sir?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in a case study, there is a complex environment, so there may be a possible different solutions are possible, and which may be suggested by the different students. So with the discussion, we can find out which is the best solutions of the complex problem given in the case study.
Thank you so much for raising this, some of the, and teaching the students that there's nothing like best, right? So there's so many alternatives which can fit into different situations. So sometimes there may not be any best alternative, because best is when you say best, it becomes very subjective, right? Because all the solutions are all contextual. So yeah, thank you so much for. I asked this. Anybody else? Okay, why I asked this question is that sometimes, I've been, as I said, I've been doing it, and I don't even know the advantages of what I'm doing. So I wanted to understand from you, how do you use that, and what kind of, let me share with you what other people, those, especially those who are researchers in the area of case teaching and who are the experts in the areas of, their thoughts are very similar to what some of you have referred. Case teaching is all about active learning, and the conventional is always passive, where the flow is from faculty to the students. And here it is, students learn from faculty, students learn from students, faculty learn from students. So it is sharing of ideas, it is active learning, and that is why, if you remember the picture I showed you, it has to be audience oriented. And you said it is practical application. There are many ways of teaching practical application, and case method is not just the only way. For example, if you are in technology environment, you teach them hands-on how to do things, and it may not be the case teaching, it may be the demonstration. But in business, we don't have anything to demonstrate. So we have to learn from the mistakes of others, or we have to learn from the success of others. So we see that how some of the principles which you're teaching, how are they applied practically. And then case teaching is generally, if you are aware of Bloom's taxonomy, it is at the upper level of learning in terms of, so the case teaching is always put in the category of analysis. And yeah, somebody's asking a question. So it's considered to be, because it is more of analysis and synthesis. It's placed at the upper level of Bloom's taxonomy. And if you use that taxonomy when you develop your courses and when you develop your assessments, so you will know what I'm talking about. And those of you who are not using it, it is a good thing. Just refer to that, especially in business education. Just refer to that. It's a beautiful beginning point, especially when you are developing your courses, when you are developing your assessments, and when you want to assess your assessments. And it is the again, the way I see it, and most important is, I can evaluate the students as they're learning. I mean, this is the immediate evaluation. Especially you will not find any other pedagogy where the students are assessed while they are learning. Whatever learning assessment methods you're using, the case method is something, and especially if you are using a case and if you really want the students to be participative, there has to be some assessments revolving around class participation, and because that is the biggest motivation. And it helps the faculty while you are conducting your session, while you are doing the delivering, learning through cases, you can simultaneously do an evaluation. The only thing is it can be challenging. It depends on how many students are there in your resources you have. This is something which is very much used in the business, especially those which are MBA oriented business school. Not the business school, I can share off right now because we have it's a part of a college. We don't have that system, but I'm referring to my previous school in Singapore and UAE, where we sometimes we will have those research assistants or teaching assistants who will be helping you. But there are many ways of doing assessment while class party is happening. And if you have something which we can actually have a dialogue on, and how do we do it, and when you don't have those assistants, when you don't have that support, and you have to do everything on your own. So how do you do that evaluation? But believe me, one of the significant area of the benefit of case-based teaching is when I attach, end of the day, what you have is, you have learning outcomes, you have a pedagogy, and then you have assessments. And if your assessment is not linked with the pedagogy which you are using, believe me, there will be a disconnect. So the way you teach, the way you make the students learn, they have to be assessed in the same way. So if you have a course which is an absolutely case-oriented course, then the assessment has to be based on some way or the other related to the case analysis. So if it is not, I mean, you teach them about cases and then ask them what do you mean by corporate finance? It will not make sense, because it has to be closely linked. So your learning outcomes, your pedagogy, and your assessments, they have to be in the flow, and that is why some of the schools you will see, for example, I'll share an example with you, 50%, sometimes 50% of the total grade is based on, if your course is totally revolving around participation, case-based method, then it has to be a significant part of your assessment. And some of the courses that use cases, which is primarily the 50% course with 20% assessment is around using an example, because I just going through that course, and it is current. I know it is online, so maybe some of you may find value in that. And then exposure to diversity. Again, this may not be very true if you, let's say, if you're teaching in a school in Punjab, or and most of the students are from that area, but still you can introduce them to. That's where I said you need to be prepared thoroughly. That's where, even if the students don't have exposure to the diversity, you can bring cases from other cultures. But then you have to be absolutely sure about what are the differences in your culture and the other culture. And you have to orient the students accordingly. This is how we decide this case in India. And this is how it will be decided in Germany, because it's a German case. And maybe sometimes ask the students, what do you think? So sometimes I do an Indian case with a foreign audience, and then I put the decision on the board right up front. That this was the decision taken by the manager of that particular company. Then I ask the students, how will you do it differently? For example, now everybody is moving to international financial reporting standards, but we still have some significant differences in terms of the accounting practices in India and the accounting practices somewhere where the IFRS is fully adopted, right? So you give them an accounting case, put the solution on the board up front, and then you don't want the students to give you the solution. Ask them, how will you do it differently if you're doing it in Germany, for example? Or if you are dealing with, pick up a German case, pick up an, which is and put the solution on board and ask the students, what will be the difference when you are doing it in India? So, and then refer to some of those standards where there is a difference between IFRS and still, in the Indian practice. I mean, there's so many examples. But it is biggest vehicle to expose the students to diversity. It is fun when your class is full of, diverse audience, students from different backgrounds. That's the fun, and they disagree with everybody, with each other because they come from different backgrounds. And that's where the students learn from each other. Oh, this doesn't happen in Singapore, or this happens, in that country. But even if you have the same audience, I can understand that most of you may have the audience from the same cultural background. But then this is the opportunity you use to pick up something. So take them out of their there are advantages and disadvantages of picking up a case from a different culture. The advantage is exposing them to diversity. The disadvantage is sometimes the students are not able to connect with that company, the case on which the case revolves around. For example, if you are teaching students primarily from Punjab and ask them, give them a case on Vardhaman or Oswalds, they will be immediately able to connect with that. And they would probably love to learn a little more about that company because they have seen that company while passing by. Sometimes it would be great to tell them, okay, this is Vardhaman or Oswalds or Hero Cycle, and this is what a Chinese cycle manufacturer does. So let's have a bit of contrast, So this is what happens in China. This is what happens there. Then you have to pick up two cases, probably from the same industry, but from two different countries, But many universities who are the case proponents, the student audience is from different cultural backgrounds, and that becomes a total fun because you ask them, how will you do it in your country? And especially if the audience is at graduate level or a postgraduate level, the way you call it, they have the exposure. Then especially if for example, if you're teaching in an MBA, group in one of the universities in Canada, you will find that the students are from, maybe more than 20 different countries. And no school in Canada takes students into MBA program until unless they have work experience. So just imagine that there are students from 20 different countries. They have worked in their home countries. They are experienced executives or they are experienced managers, and they can relate to their context. So the faculty role becomes minimal in that context because those 20 cultural backgrounds will teach each other so much. If I'm doing this case in my country, this is how we will do. So that diversity you cannot get if it is a conventional faculty to student learning. Where only you learn is the faculty's background, from faculty's experience. You will never learn anything. If the faculty has traveled, maybe a little bit value add. But if the faculty has a very single-dimensional experience, so you will get that only. And that is why those MBA programs are very, very popular, especially MBA programs. And now BBA also. I mean, if you see, I just delivered a lecture in one of the universities here. I mean, you see students from every corner of this world. I know that we're still not there when it comes to the business schools or the commerce colleges in India. We still have, because we have so much of demand from domestic students. So, but I know some of the universities are making efforts to diversify the audience more. So going back to if your audience is diversified, it's fun. Teaching by cases should be the only way. If it is not, use the case as a vehicle to expose your students to diversity, picking up cases from different backgrounds. As I said, you have written it. It is all about interaction and engagement. And if you want to refer to, this is a beautiful piece, where I picked up these points from. It's a nice article on how to teach with cases. And if you're interested, I will send the links to Ashwani. Some of these cases are freely available. Some of the cases you have to buy it from Harvard Business School's website. Is it okay so far, Ashwani? I mean, you can ask the audience how many of them have already gone to sleep. Sometimes it can be very boring, you know.
Hey, everybody is enjoying your talk, sir.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. If they're not enjoying, so they, you know, sometimes we learn when we, as teachers, when we go to these kind of workshops, then I learn the kind of torture my students go through, right? So, because
we are very well connected, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. And some of the
they're all awake.
Okay, thank you. And some of the challenges we should be aware. It is not, and sometimes, you know, the biggest challenge is. I remember I was doing a workshop in you know, for my own faculty, and I was in the lead chair. Sometimes the faculty members or you as teachers, you think, oh, are you proposing that case teaching is the only way of doing it? No, case teaching is one of the ways. Do the case teaching only if you are comfortable with that. If you see a value, the biggest problem, Ashwani has already highlighted that problem, and we have seen it wherever, and especially in our context, in Indian context. Sometimes what happens is, I'm taking my example. The first time when I used a case teaching, when I used the case for the first time, it was when I was teaching in Punjabi University. And believe me, we start teaching cases without knowing anything about teaching. There are two issues. First, the trainer has to be trained, and secondly, if you want to really use cases in your class, and if you're doing it, if your students have to be trained on how to do cases. And sometimes we just throw, and I know the mistakes which I made. And when I actually learned how to teach with cases, and I remember that was when I attended a workshop in IMT Ghaziabad, when I joined there, and they paid for that workshop. I realized that I've been messing with my students when I was with Punjabi University, because I was using cases. Students were still enjoying it because you use cases as a tool of performance. You know, they take it as a story. You know, it's a storytelling about some company, and students don't mind listening to that story. But was I able to extract the maximum value out of that? Possibly not. And I learned it when I learned how to do cases. When I sat in the classes of some of my peers who were trained in case teaching. And I remember I was the program chair at IMT Ghaziabad, but I used to attend classes of some of my colleagues because they had trained in USA in terms of how to teach with those cases. And that was an eye-opener that, okay, this is how you do the case teaching. And then I realized I was thinking of all my students in Punjabi University who I taught by using the cases, and the things they missed, because that case which I used could have added so much of value if I had known how to do that. So there are challenges. If you do your own analysis, look at your strengths and weaknesses. Do it if you see the benefit and evaluate the challenges perfectly, and do a cost-benefit analysis and then decide whether. Sometimes you don't have the alternative, because as I said, when we were in SPGen, we decided as a school that we moving towards case-based teaching, and everybody has to go through case-based teaching workshops. Everybody has to use cases. So there was no question, then you have to do it. But if you have a choice, make sure that you see a value. And remember, again, there's a difference in the way we do things in India and the way we do things in Canada, for example. In Canada, in my college, if I have to ask every faculty, I have to put it on their workload form. Even if attending a conference, if they're switching from a conventional course to a case teaching, I have to assess how many hours will it take, and then I have to. In India, it is easy. Your workload is defined by number of courses you have to teach. Right? Am I right, Ashwani?
Absolutely.
So how do you teach it? It's absolutely your. But it is not same in Canada, because we have a union, and every 3 years there is a contract which is signed between the management and the college union that defines what can be the workload and what will be the value of each workload. Means teaching 1 hour means how much preparation hours. Teaching 1 hour means how many. So there are different things. But you're lucky you have so much of flexibility. So, but do your own assessment before you. So some of the challenges which you may face is, remember that end of the day, this is a mistake which we generally make, and I have made this mistake many times. You teach the students decision making in a particular context when you are using a case. But what you should be teaching a student is a generalization of a concept. And that decision making in that context may be one way of looking at things. And sometimes students they enjoy it. They will give you a very good feedback because they enjoyed your session. You took an example of a company. You tell them, what are the problems company was facing. You ask them to discuss. You ask them to propose alternatives. They propose alternatives, and you pick up the best one. If there is a best alternative or best in the given circumstances, and students enjoy it. You enjoy it. You go happy. Students give you excellent feedback because they enjoyed it. It is like they like your performance. And case teaching is all about performing on stage. Believe me, teaching is all about performing on stage. So, but the question is, did they get to the concept? You have to use case as a vehicle, which is a very specific situation, to generalization. That this is the concept. If you are teaching a case where you're asking the students, does it make sense? For example, the case I gave you. One big question, I'm assuming you have at least glanced through the case and read. There is one small question in that case. That question is, should they open in the off season? They're right now operating 120 days. Should they open for 365 days? Right? It's a very simple. And you can teach this case. You can mesmerize the students, and students go very happy, and they know that if they open, this will happen. If they don't open, this will happen. But end of the day, you have to ask what concept, what theory they have learned. If you're not able to link with that theory, and this is a missing link. And I'm not talking about the teachers who are not liked by the students. I'm talking about the teachers who are liked by the students because they love that case study, right? But then give that student to somebody else and ask them to give a test to the students. Did they understand that theory? This is the biggest challenge in case teaching. You are teaching them decision making in a particular context, but are you able to help the students generalize in terms of understanding a particular theory? So if I go back to the same case, is this case about what? Is it this case about opening, or is this case about enhancing the profitability of the company? Is this case about unutilized capacity? Is this case about all your competition is opening up during the off season and you're not? Is it a strategy problem? Is it a profitability problem? Is it a short-term problem? It's a long-term problem. And then what theories do you apply? So are you going to teach them, telling them how to do a SWOT analysis, which is the information is not there. So moving from specific to generalization is a biggest challenge for students. And some of you who have used the cases, believe me, you will understand what I'm saying. I'm talking about when your class has gone very well. You have to just make sure that you have to sit back. Was the generalization taking place when you are teaching that particular context? This is related with the first. Cases are extremely contextual. For example, again, look at the case. I gave you a case which is a place. I don't know how many of you traveled to Austria. This is a place in Salzburg in Austria. This is one of the most famous skiing area in Austria. So it's a tourist place. But then it's a very contextual, So there is a ski resort which is operating for 120 days because of the snow. After the snow melts, there is no business. Now they're trying to generate some business out of it, right? And you can teach them capital budgeting by using this case. You can teach them other n number of things, relevant cost analysis by using this case. You can teach strategies in hospitality industry, changing dimensions of hospitality industry. I mean, you can teach n number of things, but the problem is it will be only in that context. So moving from that context to generalization is the biggest challenge, especially when, and I will share with you how do you remove those probably challenges. Your course outline, your lesson plan is the best way of taking care of that challenge. And then another biggest challenge is, and again, I will probably later on seek some advice from people who are using the cases. It comes down to how do you pick your cases. The problem is, if you're teaching, I'm sorry, I'm taking examples of mainly accounting and finance because that's my bread and butter. But let's say if you're a marketing professor and you want to you're teaching them something like creating a niche market or something like segmentation, for example, and you have done some cases. But the problem is when you move from one class to another class, the student maturity level may be different. And you still have the case, you have prepared that case, you have used that case, and you have that tendency to continue with that case. But believe me, it will be the same case. The same case can make you a 5-star professor, and the same case may make you a not very good professor because you did not understand the maturity level of the audience. The beauty of our profession, or the flip side of our profession, is people you interact with change every semester, and that's fun. That's fun because it doesn't lead to boredom. You have new faces, new names to remember, and new interactions. But the challenge is you have to understand what kind of students you have. So if student maturity varies, and the way you handle your case, the way you deliver your case, you have to adapt to those changes, which is happening in the composition of the group you are dealing with. Because it's sometimes the case which I gave you, I have used it at undergraduate level, I have used it in a DBA group, I have used it in a master's level, and I have used it in, most of the time I use this case in executive training programs. You call it MDP in India. And I've made more money than my 1 month salary by, 1 year salary by using this case in MDP programs. But then if I'm doing an MDP program, or if I'm doing, we call it executive training. So if I'm doing an executive training where most of the participants are from hospitality industry, I have to deal with this case very differently because they know much more than I do, right? And if I'm doing it, I'm dealing with some executives who come from marketing or sales. I have to do it differently. And if it is a group of some of the finance managers, God bless me, I have to be ready with something else which they don't know, right? So they will know much more than I do about doing financial analysis. So they can actually bring you down. So you have to understand, and you have to, and this is one of the challenges as a faculty, because we as faculty, we have to create our folders. Okay, this is the case I prepared. This went very well. It goes into my folder, and I have to use it again. And there's nothing wrong by using that case again. But can you change the context? Can you add a little more value? Can you understand which audience are you dealing with now? You dealt with a different kind of audience. What is the audience now? I'm sorry, again, the biggest problem with, as I said in the earlier part, was that assessment has to be, if you're teaching by cases, you have to assess the students accordingly, right? But when you're using cases as a tool of your assessment, and especially when it comes to class participation, there's a lot of subjectivity. And if you're not trained and your students are not trained, it may lead to number of I don't know the word which you use in Singapore, Canada. We use the number of appeals. We don't use the term complaint because complaint is so number of appeals, student appeals. In terms of explain that. And again, I have some suggestions on that later on. It will be subjective, but the question is, how do you remove that bias? How do you make that a little bit of objective? And it is not easy. It is very challenging. For example, if you have 50% marks on class participation, and some of the people love talking in the class, right? So you give them more marks. So you have to have, and the answer to that is having a very robust rubric. If you're teaching a case and you're using case as an assessment, please develop a rubric. Evaluate that rubric. Maybe discuss with your peers. Ask them, is it okay to use this? And make it very clear to the students. because case teaching involves a lot of subjectivity. Somebody said, when we were talking about, it says picking up the best alternative. And that's where the biggest subjectivity is, because you have made up your mind that this is the best alternative. And believe me, in business organizations, there are many alternatives which can be best. It is just how you look at them. And that's why business decision making is so unique. There's no best answers. Your decision was best if you made more money. As simple as that. But the time will tell. Right now, we don't know, because decisions are futuristic. Let's go in the future and see what happens to what are the implications of the decision you made. So that will be a challenge. Remember this thing: all your students are not made for case study teaching. Don't force your students. Do you have alternatives? Again, some of the students may not like to be assessed on the basis of class participation. I'll share an example with you. So in Canada, if you are in any business school in Canada, whether it is MBA level or undergraduate level or in a diploma level, you will find that the majority of the students are either from India or from China, and then some students from other countries. So there will be 2 or 3 from different countries. But if you see a group sitting in your class, there will be Chinese faces sitting in one corner, and there will be Indians sitting in one corner. And if you're doing a case study and you have class participation, and then you have made the students aware of the class participation grades, most of the time you as a faculty will not be speaking. The only people who will be speaking in the class is the students from India. And the Chinese will never speak in your class, because by the time they collect their thoughts, Indians have already started talking. So there is a big cultural difference, and you will always find that they're not really comfortable with the idea of being assessed on the basis of what they speak. And if you give them out of class hours, most of the people who come with most relevant questions and who come to you during those hours will be the Chinese students, because they hate talking in a group, but they have very genuine questions, and they sometimes open up your thinking, thinking process that, oh, okay, I did not look at that aspect. No, the problem is that means sometimes your audience is not made for the case-based teaching. And please, Harpreet has raised hand. Vikas, if you can ask what is the question first.
Ma'am Harpreet, is there any question?
And she can type it on the Padlet.
Yeah, so you can write it on the Padlet or maybe in the chat box.
No, sir. I think
okay.
Only it was put hand on the.
No.
Okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
Ma'am, please mute yourself.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes,
No. Okay.
Okay, so few again. Ashwani, stop me when you think it is going overboard.
No, it's not. It's mesmerizing us, sir. Kindly.
Yeah, I'm getting this opportunity to speak to my Indian colleagues after a long time, and I can go on for hours. So just you have to stop.
Please carry on, sir. We are really relishing, sir.
Yeah. So there are 3 things. When you're preparing for this, there are 3 things you have to look at. 3 very basic fundamentals of one, we call it foundations. So another is the flow, and the third is the feedback. This is the essential component of case-based teaching. So most important is the foundations. You have to lay the foundations. You want to actually succeed as a case-based case teaching expert, and you already successful. I'm not saying, what I'm saying is you might have already done this. You are doing it most of the things. But I'm just sharing the way I deal with this. So foundation is that you have to first set the norms, set the expectation, your expectation, You have to share those expectations from the students. How do you select cases? What cases are selected? And how will you be doing the evaluation? So you have to have that plan upfront. You have to communicate that plan. You have to understand if there is any concern. So the foundation is, the important thing. This is where we miss most of the time. And sometimes we miss because we are told that this is the syllabus. Syllabus is one thing. I'll share with you, what matters is the course outline. What matters is your session plan. Those are the things which matter the most in a case-based teaching. So establish norms, set expectations, your expectation from the students, understand students' expectations from your sessions, and then what kind of cases are you picking? Then again, there is a laundry list of things which you have to consider before you decide your case. And then again, I will show you maybe some of the things which you can look at while picking up the case, and I'll come to the flow and feedback. And then feedback is, again, if you're doing a case, you are asking the students to get into a discussion. You're asking the students to pick up, decide the alternatives. You're asking the students to, do some decision making. You have to give the feedback, and feedback cannot wait. It should not be waiting. It should be on a continuous basis. And then how do you make sure that the students who are part of a group, they remain part of a group? You want to do it as a group, discussion. You want to do it as an individual discussion. There's so many things. So you have to decide on this: expectation, flow of the class, and then feedback. How do you give the feedback? Do you give a written feedback? Do you give the feedback when they're debating? Do you give them feedback, in terms of they submit a write-up and then you put your comments on their write-up? It depends. So let's look at some of the points in the foundations. Is it okay if I open a particular my course, so that I can pick up some of the points from that course, right?
That will be nice.
Right. So let me know if you can see that website now. Are you able to see that? No. Let me just share it again.
You have to share it again, sir, on Zoom.
Yeah. Oh, I share my screen so that whenever I change anything on the screen, you can see that. So let me share screen 1. Okay. Are you okay? Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So for example, this is my course in one of the universities in Denmark, which is currently going on. Now, let me just. So, for example, first is this you do it in India also. I just mentioned that the course has been. Now, this is a course not for a particular group. This is a course it's a summer course which is for international students, and any student can click on this and can register for this course. Last 9 years, it will be the students will be actually coming to Denmark and staying there for summer and doing this course, which is a compressed, intensive 3-week course. But not it is online. So first is that we tell them that what kind of backgrounds they should have. In setting the expectations. If you haven't done anything in the area of basic accounting or basic reports, but this is where I want you to. I hope Ashwani, is it coming clearly?
Yes.
So this is what I wanted to share with you. The course aims at providing the students with an understanding and here. This is what I wanted you to read. Setting the expectations very straight. The students, before they sign up for this course, they should know that they are ready for this. The course is built almost around case method and business simulations using engaged learning method. So they know that there are two things. It will be all cases or simulation. And secondly, it is engaged learning, which means they have to participate. And that they will also, again, when I go to the assessment, they will know that they will be assessed on the basis of their performance during case discussions or simulation discussions. So The most important requirements of this, the requirements for this course are a thorough preparation and analysis of the assigned cases. And I'm telling them very clearly, I'm not going to do it. You are going to do it. I'm going to be there as a facilitator, which will tell you whether you're going in right direction or a wrong direction. I'm not going to be your teacher. I'm not going to spoon feed you anything. And every student has to read the reading and to read the case. They have to put the case analysis maybe wrong. They don't know the kind of direction I'm going to take them. That's the beauty. They have already done it. And most of the time, they share with me their draft analysis. And it is generally done in cases or in groups. And when we meet in the class, what happens is we spend most of the time on kind of debating on your analysis, my analysis, his analysis, our analysis. And then somebody said alternatives. If the case proposes an alternative, what are the best alternative in that particular context, or what is better alternative than others, So, and then preparation for simulation, and this is just a brief which is there on the website of that university. Then I have a 4 or 5 page document which is shared with them through the Blackboard which they use, and which tells them steps for every session. And there is a outline for every session, which is shared with them. That today we're going to do this. How much time are we going to spend on this? How much time are we going to spend on different activities? So that's what I was talking about: the preparation from the faculty and preparation from the student. And I'll come to that. My first session is slightly different, which you can practice. So preparation for simulation and making decision in a simulated environment. Active participation. So this is active participation in the classroom will be very important for this course. And case discussion and will be the primary teaching tools. So this is what I'm telling them straight, that you have to be ready. Come to this course. If you're coming to listen to my lectures, then these are not available. If you're coming to discuss with, this is what is available. And sometimes, let's say if I'm doing the same thing in Singapore, what I do is I pick up the cases and I of Singapore companies, and if I have contacts in Singapore in that company, I invite somebody from that company to sit in my class, and it happened many times in Singapore. Denmark is a foreign country for me, so I'm not able to do that. So this will be, again, if the student's not prepared, it will never happen, and then you will have to go to plan B. Then you have to go back to that monotonous lecture. So for example, here, you will see that all the assignments are take-home assignments, but the way assignments are designed is, what did you learn from that case and what did you learn from that simulation? And then a very clear rubric is, for example, so I'll show you here. So it is, so students have to, assignment will be based on simulation, on working capital. During the simulation, each student plays a role of a CEO of a company and is given the task of making some decision related to working capital position of the company with a view to create value for the shareholder stock. So what is their assignment? Their assignment is they will be doing simulation. They will be doing simulation in the class. We will have so much of debate on what is right, what is wrong. I give my perspective. They give their perspective. And end of the day, what I'm asking them is, the decisions which you took during that simulation, tell me, what are the 3 things I asked them? What was your decision? Second, why did you take that decision? Give me a justification. And third, and which is most important, is, so when I say why, they will submit the analysis which they did. And the third and most important is, I ask them, what theory or what concept did you refer to? And that's where and I tell them what is the weight of first, so how much is the points for sharing with me what decisions they took. Second is, little more points on analysis part, means why did they take that decision? And third, what theory they were guided, what they guided about, NPV analysis or this analysis or that analysis, and how do they relate with that conceptual understanding? So these are the 3 basic components where we move from specific to generalization. And every case is, so when I give them a case, there are 1 or 2 readings associated with that case. So they have to read first, and then they have to work on a case. They have to read first, or they have to go on doing a simulation. And I can share, if I don't know how many of you have done simulations, we can share some some ideas on that as well. So this is about, again, assignment 2 is, again, assignment will be based on a simulation. Everything is, and then another assignment is a group-based assignment where the students will be divided into groups and they will be assigned a case study. So if I'm building the whole case around simulation and cases, the students have to be assessed accordingly, and they should see a very clear linkage on what are they learning, how are they learning, and how are they being assessed. And if you break that chain, there will be either missing learning outcomes, or there will be a student dissatisfaction. So this is for example what I do, and this course is this course is 45 hours course, and in 45 hours, see here, I do 4 simulations. And if these are some of the articles which they have to read, every article is linked with a particular simulation, and it is the whole day plan is given to them. And if you see there are 4 cases. So we have 10 sessions. In 10 sessions, I'm doing with them 4 simulations and 4 cases. So which takes care of 8 days, 8 sessions. I mean, when I say 10 sessions, it is 10 days of 4 hours each. So this is what, and I'm not asking that if you're teaching a course, you should teach course on all on course case basis. But if you want to use cases, make sure that you're using more than 1 or 2 cases. If it is 1, because sometimes the students take time to get oriented. And as I said in the beginning, that I will tell you, my first session is always different. My first session is, which is a missing point in many, many times. The missing point here is that my first session is how to do a case analysis. If you don't do that, I mean, some of the students might have done because they come from different countries. If the students have not done case analysis in the past, even if they have done it in the past, but they have done it differently. So it is my responsibility to prepare myself and to prepare the students. So we always do a first session, or the first week is always how to do case analysis. And sometimes if anybody is interested in doing it, it costs a little bit. I think it is $15 to $20, and only if you are registered with Harvard Business School's website. They have a online kind of thing. I mean, they have a case study basically to teach how to teach, how to learn from cases. So the students, you can register the students with that. But if you're not, there are so many articles available. There are so many readings available on how to teach with. Not how to teach with cases, how to learn from the cases. So that you have to tell the students what are the steps. Read a case, analyze a case, come up with the alternatives. How do you do that? How do you handle the information? How do you handle the data? What kind of analysis you have to do? So you have to orient. If they're not oriented, you will miss the point always. I was talking too much about. Hey, let me stop here. Anybody has any questions? I'm not doing the way case method should be done, participation. But anybody has any questions? Do we have that topic?
So they don't have any question. They're just praising that structured lecture is there.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let's go on then. Few tips quickly. So few tips. Practice explaining case teaching. This is what I do in my first session. Develop a habit. If you really want to use cases, prepare something. How do you prepare your students to do a case analysis? Maybe the best thing will be give them a demo. That if I'm doing as a student, this is how we'll do it. Pick up a small case or small simple case, and tell them that what are the activities you will go through in terms of preparing for the case, in terms of analyzing a case, and keep that general standard case. You have to prepare it once. You can use it in multiple classes. So I have my own case. I spend 45 minutes on that. So I give that case before the day of the class. I ask the students to read. It is just a 1-pager, and then I tell them, I'm doing it as a student. This is how I'm going to do it. and this kind of questions I will ask. So it is kind of an orientation to the students. So please explain to them how to do case analysis. Don't expect them that they know how to do case analysis. Just don't throw a case at the student. Set student expectation and explain the role very clearly. So well-crafted course outline, your role, feedback, assessment, everything has to be. Again, I'm not very sure what are what are the systems there. Are you supposed to have? So I know that in India, when I was teaching, we used to have a syllabus, but do you have to prepare a course outline? Is there some mandatory components of that course outline that you have to put this? Prepare as robust as possible course outline, explaining the students. I know some of the schools where you teach, or some of the colleges or institutions where you teach, you may not have any flexibility in terms of assessments. There may be, you have to do an exam, and exam is 75%. So then probably, and the exam has to be standard, it comes from the university. I don't know if the things have changed. I'm talking about when I was there, exam questions were prepared by somebody else, teaching was done by somebody else, but the business schools have moved on. It is, I know even in UBS in Punjab University, when I was teaching there, we were doing our own exam. So if you have that flexibility, I'm assuming you have that flexibility. So if you have that flexibility, prepare your course outline, which explains everything. What will be the day session? What will be done in that session? What will be the assessment? The most important part is, if you're using cases, you're not behaving like a teacher, you're behaving like a facilitator. You have to explain your role very clearly, and you have to explain the role of the students very clearly, that how are you going to do it and how are you going to assess that. Please, as I said, preparation means read cases maybe more than once or twice, and somebody has already figured out that the case which I gave was marginal costing, and we can have a debate on that. It may be marginal costing, it may not be marginal costing. The case can be used as a different, because I'll come to that, maybe 5 minutes we will spend on that. So read case, and if you're picking cases from published sources like Harvard website or Ivy or Case Center, every case, for example, all the cases which I have, the cases which I have prepared, some of them are published, some of them not, because some of the cases we don't get the approval from the industry. So I work as a consultant, and the companies I work with, I generally try to document some of the things to prepare that case, and I use my own case in my class. And if I don't get approval from the industry, I can't publish it, but I can still use it for my own purpose. If you're using somebody else's case, if it is a published case at a standard website, it will come with a teaching note. So my two advices to you: read the case and the teaching note 2-3 times, because the person who actually prepared that case, he had something in mind, or he or she had something in mind, what he or she wanted to communicate, what kind of decision you were focusing on. So teaching note explains that if that person is teaching that case, how will he or she teach? But remember that, never use that teaching note verbatim. That is somebody else's opinion on how to do that case. Develop, on the basis of that, develop your own framework, develop your own analysis. You can use that, but it should not be that you read that case. That means what you're doing is you are picking somebody else's case, you're picking somebody else's analysis, and you're sharing it with the student. No learning for you, no learning for the student. Student could have bought that case, done it on their own. But don't do that. Okay, I'm reading the case, I don't bother about the teaching note. Don't do that, because teaching note will tell you the context the case was written in. And that's very important. And if you're changing the context, you should know that what is the difference you make, what are you changing, and how will the analysis change. So it's very important. Read it thoroughly, prepare your own presentation or whatever you want to use. If you're doing a financial analysis, I explain all my cases using Excel sheets. So prepare your Excel sheets well in advance. You may not use those case sheets in the class, because students will see that it is pre-prepared sheet, but practice on Excel sheet, or then go to the class, and maybe sometimes it is fun doing the same analysis from scratch in the class, so that students can see that what are the variables you're picking, what are the variables you are linking with each other, and it can be fun. And so if it is very complex case and you don't have too much of time for doing that in the class, use that pre-prepared presentation or Excel sheet if you're doing numbers-based courses. And the best and the worst thing is plan your time very carefully. Tasks, plan your time, tasks and transition. For example, will you be asking questions? What kind of questions you'll be asking? And if the students are on track, what questions you want to ask? If the students are off track, how do you bring them on? All those permutation combinations you should have. You should plan that, plan A, plan B. So have that plan. And I don't mind when I go to a class face-to-face. So if you see me walking into a class, which is a face-to-face class, I have few sheets in my hand, and those sheets are not the analysis of the case. Most of the time, those sheets are my plans, and then I keep circling, this is done, this is done. And these days, it is easy. I'm using my iPad. So I open that plan on that, then I keep on thinking, okay, this is done, I have to now revert. Have that plan in your hand. Nothing wrong in having some slips in your hand, but don't give this impression to the student that you're actually reading the solution from the paper, So don't keep the solution. And these days, now online is a blessing for me, because when it comes to class participation, I can now record everything and I can assess it later on. When I was doing it on the face-to-face, I had to have a student doing it for me. So I will pick at one student every time who will do all the recording of who's asking question, what question was asked, and who answered my question. So the students will be taking notes and they will be handing it over to me. But now it is much easier. I said, forget it. I just have to click on the record button and it is done. And whenever I have any confusion, I just go to the recording and see it. So this has turned into a blessing rather than, so it's a value add for us. And in terms of flow, so first was foundation, second is flow. Flow in terms of every class needs this lesson plan. I warned you in the beginning. Teaching with cases means spending more time in preparation. But the beauty part of this is, once you have the plan, once you have everything ready, it goes into your folder, reuse it, recycle it as many times as, so have it. So once you start doing it, you will have, and maybe, for example, if I look at my folder now, I have some, 70 odd cases, 70 odd case analysis. I have everything ready. So that means when I go to a new class, what I have to do is I have to pick up, should I use the case, reuse this case, or should I not? When I'm reusing the case, then again, do I need to make some changes in the analysis? Because circumstances might have changed. And, so you have to update it. But have a plan for every, not for the whole course, for every session. Class overview and main points, opening question. The biggest requirement of case teaching is asking right questions. The faculty has to be ready to ask questions at every stage. You will find that the students start doing analysis and suddenly they are stuck. They are not thinking. There is no movement. Now they are moving ahead. They're moving in wrong direction. So you have to be ready with those opening question. You will ask it, or will you ask the students to ask that opening question? So be ready for that. And again, I don't know. It depends on how do you, now it's online, it is easy. Let me give you, as I said, we can see that what are the differences now. So earlier, most of the places where I taught, we would have 2 or 3 whiteboards in the room. So most of the time there will be a central board and there will be boards on both the sides. So you have to have a plan. What are you going to write on the left side board? What are you going to write on the right side board? And what are you going to use monitor for? So we call it board plan. So for example, in some of the cases, I'll go 5 minutes early. I'll write my question on one of the boards. Another board will be kept for noting down the responses. Now the online, the beauty is I have 3 screens. I have a Padlet. I have a whiteboard, right? So I can keep on using that, but the only challenge is I don't know what technology my students have. Do they have 1 screen? Some of the students have 2 screens. Some of the students have just 1 screen. Do they know how to split the screen? Can they see both the things simultaneously? That is a challenge for me. Because some of the students are very, very well equipped. They can see Padlet on half the screen and they can see my presentation on half the screen. Some of the students are using 2 screens. They can, I may have 3 screens, but the question is the 3-screen advantage has to go to the student. So one of the challenges is when you're preparing for your board plan in an online setting, you have to first ask the student. Here in my college, what we do is before the start of the semester, we do a quick survey on what kind of technology student has access to. We have done it when COVID started. We took a 1 week break, and during that break, we were preparing ourselves, and then we started asking. We prepared a survey and asked the students how much, what kind of, and now it is a fresh semester starting in fall. So we are doing that survey again, that what kind of technology you have, and that gives you an idea of how should you prepare your board plan. But when we go back to face, again, it will be my typical whiteboard plans. You know, what do I put? And as I said in the beginning, sometimes in some of the cases, I put the analysis on the board upfront before students start talking. What I want them is, I want to ask them, what is the challenge here? This is the decision taken by the company on the basis of this analysis. Will you do it differently? How? Why? And then they start doing their own analysis. And we always look at so have your board plan ready for every, even in online setting. If you're doing a case in online setting, again, I don't know whether you use MS Teams, you use Zoom, but whatever you're using, you use Kahoot to ask questions. You can use the technology, but whatever technology you're using, you must have two-way communication. In a case-based teaching, two-way communication is very, very important. So if you're using Zoom, use whiteboard, ask and give the access to the students so that they can also write on whiteboard. They can print. I don't know how expensive it is in India. If you have access to something like Padlet, use it. If you have something better, use it. But have two-way communication. Board plan is very, very, very important. And it is not just for you. It is, it has to be used as a tool of two-way communication, because case studies are all about engagement. And how do you know that the students are engaged? There has to be a flow, and that is what board plan is. And board plan has become equally important in online setting. So if you attend one of my sessions, my board plan is ready. My Padlet is ready for that course. On the Padlet, I write everything, what I'm going to do, or what I want to share with the students, and I give the access to the students, and they keep on adding or deleting from they can't delete, but they keep on adding, asking their questions. So Padlet works for me as a whiteboard, which is used by the entire class, including myself. And then if I have to use another board, I use the whiteboard of Zoom. So which gives me the flexibility of having two places of communication with the students. And then, of course, I don't have to say anything about this. You have to be ready with each case has to belong to something. You have to know what does it belong to. And then always ready with the concluding points, maybe one or two. Don't make it a long story, because the story has to be done by the students. And remember, understand your students, as I said. The biggest challenge in online, now you were talking about online teaching, the biggest challenge is when you are in face-to-face, when you are in a same classroom, believe me, as a faculty, and especially who have few years experience, it's very easy to understand who is prepared and who's not prepared. Because it is all about engagement and class participation, right? And that means they have to be prepared. The case study is useless method if the students don't come prepared to the class. Believe me, don't use it. If you see that none of your student is prepared with the case, it doesn't matter then, because then you have given them the case, you will be telling them what situation is there, you will be giving them the analysis. It becomes a very conventional classroom. No, don't use it. Use it only when the students are prepared. I mean, when students come prepared to the class. And one of the things which I use sometimes in order to understand the preparation level of the student is, so I use Kahoot. And what I do is, on the basis of the case study which the student is supposed to be, read and prepared, is I create a quiz on Kahoot. And most of the quiz is, and I give them very small time to answer those questions. And most of the quiz questions on Kahoot is referring to the information which is available in the case, referring to some of the important points which I wanted them to read in the case. So that gives me an idea how many students have actually genuinely read the case and prepared some kind of background. And the day I see that the level of preparation is very low, it happens, then I switch to my plan B. That is not a real class, a case-based class. And then, so maybe we do something else. And that is where I said, you have to be ready with your plan B. And some of the time students may not be prepared. And it is happening quite often, because the students now they see that professor will not be seeing me. and I will switch off my camera. So I don't know whether the student is actually sitting in the class or not, right? Because I just see the name on the screen, and it is, you learn only when you do a cold call. You ask them, okay, James, what is this? And then no response from James, because James is not there. James is in the bathroom, or maybe James in the bar, because the class is taking place in the evening, right? You never know. Or maybe James was doing my class on phone, so he's on phone and he's sitting in a pub. So you don't know, and he's in such a situation that he doesn't want to respond to your question, but because you wanted him to participate and he enjoys your class, so he doesn't want to miss it, but he doesn't want to come on camera. So the problem is, it is becoming difficult to understand who is that. That is why you have to use some of the technology. So I've started using Kahoot, and it is helping in a great way. But the only thing is, don't ask the questions related to case analysis. Ask the questions related to, just to analyze if they have read the case thoroughly or not, and it helps tremendously. I mean, again, I don't have to say this, but this is very important for us in Canada and in Europe. Most of the challenges which we face is there should not be any single sense of biasness or disrespectful behavior. So case teaching is where sometimes the tempo goes up, the tempers go high, the difference of opinion is so great, and you're referring to different cultures, to different contexts, and just while doing it, sometimes it happens. Luckily, you are in the same group, you belong to the same community, so it is not a big issue. But it is a very big issue for people and especially people like me, who are coming from a different country and teaching into a different culture. So it's very, very important. Equity and respectability is one of the points which we have to be very careful about especially when you are getting into some kind of debate and discussion. I don't have to tell you that some people will be speaking forever. You have to know when to stop them, and some students will not be speaking at all. So you have to push them, because you're going to, if only few people participating, it is not a case. You want all the students to be engaged. So identify those people, and it happens in Zoom sessions also. So don't worry, it is not only face to face. It happens in Zoom sessions. The only thing is. The only thing is, in Zoom and now in online, cold calling is becoming difficult because of the faces not visible. So sometimes we are moving from cold calling to warm calling. Where I tell the students, okay, I will be asking you a question today. These 5 people will be your first half an hour. These 5 people should be ready. I may ask them questions. So some adaptation from the conventional way of case teaching to so cold calling is not working as effectively. But if you have sounded the students upfront, so then the student sitting in a bar maybe will go to a different corner and answer your questions. So nothing wrong. And don't take it a joke. Actually, it happens. I mean, if you're teaching in Europe, believe me, it is not uncommon that your students are actually sipping wine and beer and attending your class. So it's a very, very common sight, because I start my session at 8 o'clock in Canada, and it is actually afternoon in Europe. So that is the time they have, and it is summer in Europe, and they have to start drinking their beer, So it is very common, and some of the students are on. But the point is, are they participating? Are they prepared or not? So you have to identify who the students, and if the student is, some of the students, especially I see this with Indian students, the moment you tell them that there is a class participation mark, they will speak. They will just speak, because they think that they have to participate. And participating for them is saying something, whether it makes sense, whether it's a relevant question or not. And that is, again, my duty as a teacher to when to stop them and when to tell them that it's not relevant. So you have to go back to, and then not giving them undue advantage because somebody is speaking too much. So again, in case teaching, the most important thing is always, as I said, when you have a session plan, give them breaks. Breaks is very important. Breaks is when they regroup themselves. So it's very, very important. Having short breaks after, and that is why, if you see in Europe and in Canada, what we say is, we say you have a 3 hours class, so you have to teach for 3 hours of 50 minutes each. So 3 hours, I said 3 hours, every hour has to be 60 minutes, but this is how they explain, 3 hours of 50 minutes each. So the European standard, it is an EU standard. All the universities in Europe, in EU, France, or So it is that you have to teach for 15 minutes, 10 minutes break, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. This is the standard, which they have to follow, even if it is 3-hour session or 4-hour session. So use those breaks. And case teaching can be sometimes become so intense, you are debating so much and you going in different directions. The best way of changing gears is take a break. Take a break, 10 minutes, go out, bring your coffee, etc., and then regroup. Because sometimes the students will be very adamant on pressing their point and you may not be ready for that. So you want to change the discussion, use that. I've talked about this. Give the feedback regularly. If it is engaging environment, you have to tell them whether they're right or wrong. So have your rubrics. Rubrics is very, very important. I shared with you, when I asked them to write an assignment, I asked them to write an assignment explaining 3 things. What decision they take, why do they, and then I sometimes give them a sample. So have your rubrics very, very clearly defined. You will not, and then whether you want to use group work or you want to use individual, I'll just skip through this quickly. So group work is, you will be working less harder. Individual is, you will be working very hard. So you decide depending on the class size, etc. So you want them to submit a written work or just the class participation, or you want to make them, want them to make presentation or group presentation, individual presentation. It will depend on the class size, etc. How much effort you want to put in. I use case as an exam. I know one of the cases I use in the exam. So whether you want to use it, but then again, you have to have the purchased copy of the case, whether your school supports it, university supports it or not. And the biggest challenge is if you're using a published case as an exam, and if it is a take-home exam, students will have access to the sum of the solutions on Google. And the best thing is change your questions every time. Don't use the questions which are given in the case. Ask them to discard those questions. Give your own questions if possible. A key advice which came from one of the nice authors is it's easy to identify well-prepared and badly prepared students, but it is the middle students who are half prepared. So you have to spend time on them. So it's a very nice piece if you want to read it. It's a nice book written by Anderson on case teaching. So I just picked up some thought from there. And I said it, those of you who find that all these things which I said, oh, no, this is too much, I don't want to get into this. It's just preparing for the first time. As I said, you will start populating your folder, which has so many cases, and you can use it in different contexts. Next time will be very, very easy. Take notes when you're teaching the case for the first time, and those notes will be helpful when you're repeating your case, and whether it is online or offline, it's and I would change either cases frequently, or I will change the questions frequently which are given in the case. So those of you who have already done, who are using cases, who are experts in using cases, and you want to learn a little bit more on what changes should I make when I go online. Those of you who are still new to case teaching, probably the things which I'm saying, you probably it will help, or you can take, keep those things in mind. But those of you who are already experts in case teaching and you've gone through all the drills of learning how to teach with cases, I will share this link with this link. This link will give you a video which is available on Harvard website, which is how to move from. Now, the assumption in the video is that you already are into case teaching. So if you want to see what adjustments you have to make in your teaching pedagogy when it is online, this is a beautiful piece. I actually attended it live. It was 3-4 weeks ago. So it's very nice, and you may see there were some question answers during that period. So they have recorded everything and they have put it on their website. I'll share that link with you. You can watch it. It is 1-hour video. You can watch it whenever you have time if you are interested. But it is not talking about how to teach with cases. It is assuming that you know how to teach with cases. And so some very quick tips. Remember that whether it is online or offline, teaching is teaching. Whether you use cases or not, teaching is teaching. So you are on the stage, you are performing for the students, and you want to make sure that the students have some take home, take away from your session, and they appreciate your performance. So I see teaching as a theater performance where you're performing and the students are your audience. The only thing is and when you perform, do you want to engage your students to blow whistles and participate and sing with you? Then use case method. Or do you want your audience to be just a captive audience and look at your performance and enjoy your performance, do a conventional teaching? But teaching is teaching. You have learning outcomes to be achieved. You have to choose a pedagogy. You have to assess the students, give the feedback to the students. And same thing, case teaching is case teaching. Whether it is online, offline, in class, fully online, synchronous, asynchronous, is still the case teaching. You know, it's a pedagogy. Only thing is you have to. It's all about student engagement, and what you have to do is, only difference is now you have to use technology, and it is no different. You change your teaching from face-to-face to online. You made some adaptation, you made some changes. And if you're using case teaching, you have to make some changes the same way. And what is the change? Change is now we're doing it remotely. We're using technology. Only thing is you have to decide what is the technology I should be using. How should I use technology? Should I use Padlet? Should I give access to Blackboard to the student? Can the students write on, you know, so how do you want to give the feedback? How do you want to the students to participate? The only thing is you have to decide on the technology and few fundamental changes. You know, as I said, I gave you one example. Cold calling is becoming difficult in the Zoom sessions, you know, because when you are speaking, students generally put them off camera. So they're just listening to you. You know, and sometimes students are sitting at weird places. They are in office, they are at home, and their family is roaming around. They don't want to be seen on the video, so they switch off their cameras. You know, so warm calling can be easy. Prepare a list of students who will be answering your question. Let them know upfront that you will be asking them questions. So it is just, you know, few things which are teaching is you have to make some adjustments. The most important thing, which I'm sure all of you have done it, and I'm sure what the training which Ashwani is doing in terms of online teaching is moving to MOOCs. You know, I don't know, you know, whether it's because case teaching is still prevalent in smaller groups. So understand the technology which is available with the student, and I can share an example with you. My son goes to a university in Waterloo, and when everything you know, went up the air, COVID started, and everything went online, and there was a lot of discussion on academic integrity in terms of assessments, in terms of exams. And his university sends a notification that, hey, everybody has to have 2 screens, everybody has to have 2 webcams. So one should be on the screen facing you, and one should be on your back, so that you're not reading from another screen. And so the students were not happy. They went to the press. It became a big issue, and they had to. So think of again, what technology students have. What technology is your college or school providing them with the technology? Fine. For example, when everything went online, some of the students, especially international students, did not have the laptops of their own. They were depending on the labs. So we did actually loan them some laptops. So again, what I'm going back to the case teaching, you know, understand the resources and plan your sessions, plan your class participation techniques on the basis of, are you doing it synchronously? Synchronously will be calling. Are you doing it? And case teaching is something you can do it asynchronously. Only thing is you have to change the way you do it. The participation will be in a different. If you're using Blackboard, actually, is Blackboard used very commonly in India?
Not commonly in India, but now it is becoming slowly popular because it was not earlier introduced here. So
okay.
the people are using Zoom or Cisco WebEx meetings, etc.
Okay.
So now, but now Blackboard is becoming popular, and people are thinking, because it's costly affair, so therefore governments are also
very costly. It's very costly. But if you are advising some of the schools, if you're interacting with some of the management of some of the universities, colleges, Moodle can be another option. Moodle is cheaper.
Yes.
And only thing is, Moodle, you have to have your own IT team to customize. You have to develop your apps for yourself.
Yeah.
So, but I see all the universities and colleges now have a Department of Information Technology, and they have a big team of IT, right? So they have professors teaching IT. So maybe this will be a project. My college uses Moodle, and the entire Moodle has been developed by the in-house team. So that's a much cheaper. Anyways, going back to, if you're doing it not live, if you're not doing it through Zoom sessions, you still want to do a case study. For example, we did one case study. So if you have to use some learning management system, or if you have access to that. There's so many things available. For example, you have forums, you have wiki pages, you have discussion forums, right? Your efforts will go up. So when I do that asynchronously, what I do is I have a list of questions. I post that question every 1 hour. I have posted it once, but I put the timer. So students can see it every 1 hour, and they have to answer those questions in 24 hours. So they can see each other's answers. So this is a debate discussion happening, not live, but on that forum. So I use discussion forums which are available on. I use two things. One is maybe, if let me see. Is it okay if I show you something on
yes,
the availability of that?
yes.
Mm-hmm. The same course which I just shared with you. So you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I go to my course. So this is again Blackboard. We use Moodle here in Canada, but this is my so if you see here on if you see on the left side, on this side, just a minute, I'm looking for that button for annotation. Do we have that? I can't use it. Okay, never mind. So I'm looking at this. I can take attendance here. So when I take attendance here, I'll just show you. I click on attendance and so this is very interesting tool. I don't know. Again, as Ashwani said, it maybe. So it's check-in. So students have to check in. They get 15 minutes. They have to check in. So they have to click on check in, and they have to, and only registered students can do it. Yeah. So I ask the students to check in at least 3 or 4 times in a day, because we're not doing it in a class 3 hours. We're doing it in a full day. So they have to finish. So they check in, and once they, is it making sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is, I can take their attendance. If I have to take their attendance, I have to mark them present, absent. So if I'm doing a Zoom session, I do it. So I check who's available, who is not. So if you see, there are 3 things: present, absent, excused. Means somebody has already informed me. But when they are working from home asynchronously, then I ask them to give a check-in. So students, and there is a window. They have to do 3 times a day or 4 times a day. So when they check in, and simultaneously where is that? I go, so this is what I was talking about. We have a discussion board here. So if you see, we have a discussion board. So discussion board is where I will post a question, students will do a check-in, and then they will participate in that discussion. And they are assessed on the basis of how many questions they post and how many answers they post. So for this course, for example, this is going on live, so there may not be anything on discussion board. Another is you can actually use Wiki. It is like, it's not Wikipedia, but it is like anybody can post anything. So sharing of ideas. So there are so many things which you can do if you are using the learning management system. Anyways, going back to this, Ashwani, is it okay? Do we break now, or we have maybe about 10-15 minutes more?
Yes. There's no need to break. We can continue, sir.
Okay, everybody's sitting at home, having their
cup of tea, enjoying and listening to you.
That's perfect. Good. You have this session at 7 o'clock in Canada. No, otherwise, so it's a reverse. Otherwise, probably we can have it over a glass of wine, right? But I can't drink wine at 7 o'clock. So otherwise, it would be fun to have what do you call it? Virtual coffee or virtual wine session, right? So the one change which you have to do in online teaching is you should be ready to embrace the chaos. Technology breakdown, student is showing on the screen but not available, not responding to your calls, and suddenly, even if everything is all right, the student has the excuse, oh, my internet broke down, I couldn't help it. So you have to be ready. And that is where those discussion forums, those wikis, they come in very handy. So if, let's say, everybody says half of the class is missing, you are going to do a group work and only one person from that group is available, internet is not available, light is, and in India, we have another issue. There is no electricity today. There's a cut, and my whatever generator is not working. So be ready for that chaos, and then that's where it becomes challenging. Have your plan be ready, and that is where learning management system is very helpful. So the question which I wanted to ask, I'll put it on the discussion board. Ask them to participate whenever the electricity is back and internet is back. So you have to make those adjustments. And secondly, in online, you have to be flexible with everything. When I say everything, in terms of deadlines, in terms of time, you can't be rigid. Because of the technology gaps, you can't be rigid. I remember earlier, when I was a student, in Punjab University, it was not UBS, we used to call it, just if you remember, it was Department of Commerce, right?
Yes.
And Business Management, CBM, right? And one of my professors, I admire him like anything. So 5 minutes, class starts at 9:05, he will go and he will just board the door. Nobody can enter into that, right? So now we can't do that. If it's a Zoom session, people will go in, come out, go in. I mean, you can use that admit button so that you know that how many people are actually leaving and coming back. But then again, the excuse will be, hey, I was zoomed out because of the internet. So you have to be ready with that. You have to be ready for, with the flexibility. You have to change your mindset. You can't be rigid, professor. You have to change more timelines. You have to give them broader timeline. Earlier it used to be, you have 3 hours, you have to finish in 3 hours. Now I give them 24 hours. Finish it whenever you have time. So these are the changes which we are making. Is behavioral, more of behavioral changes which you have to bring in. And again, it is not specific to case-based teaching. It is when you're teaching online, you have to make these changes. I'm sure some of you have already experienced it. If you want the students to achieve those learning outcomes, you have to go back to the basics, the flexibility. You have to change maybe a little bit of mindset. And the most important issues which everybody is dealing with is, I don't know the situation in India. All of us we are discussing is how to maintain academic integrity when it comes to, because the proctored examination are not available now. Technology is available, it's very expensive, but then again, students have those browsers, which you can use, but one, they are very expensive. Secondly, you're not there with the student when the student faces an issue, and then excuse, then you have to get them. And this is not common to case-based teaching. This is for online teaching. So we are having those challenges. You have to adapt to that. You have to move from, if you see my course now, there is no exam. What is written is it's a take-home exam. Can you hear me? I think I'm frozen. Okay. So cold calling may not work. Post the summaries, discussion, it may help. And if we have time, I can just go through this only one point. How do you select the cases, and secondly, how do you deal with that? Yeah. So just make sure when you pick up the cases, and I'll take an example. I'll go to the Harvard site. Make sure that you understand the level and experience of your learners. What are the course outcomes, and what topics you want to teach? Do you want current, relevant, and high quality cases? I mean, there are some cases. I use some classic cases. You want to consider whether it comes with the teaching note or it comes without. Who is the decision maker in the case? Is it this? You will be assuming, students assume a role of someone who's a decision maker in the case. So don't use the same person. I mean, same thing. CEO of some company, CEO of some company. Sometimes pick up a case. If you're teaching accounting, pick up a case where a student has to assume a role of an accountant. Pick up a case where the student has to assume a role of a financial controller. Bring some diversity. If you're using 3 or 4 cases, make sure every case doesn't say that CEO of this company has to take this. CEO. Bring some diversity so that students can relate to that. If you're in an accounting class, pick up cases where the decision maker is actually an accountant in a company. So that they can relate, because this is what they're going to become. This is what they're going to work. So they want to see themselves in that situation. Now, if you are doing an undergraduate class in India, where most of the students expect that, okay, well, after they graduate, if they can get a sales job, and that's the orientation of the whole class, and you give them a role of a CEO of Apple, believe me, they will not be able to connect with that, because one, they have not handled those billions of dollars. They know that they're not going to handle, and their aspiration is to become that salesman. Why don't you pick up a case which is a sale-based case, and where the protagonist of the case, the decision maker in the case, is actually a salesman who is facing a dilemma and he has to decide something. They will be able to connect with this. And if you're teaching in an executive MBA and you're picking up a case where you are the decision maker is salesman, God bless you. They will not be able to connect with it. You have to make them. You have to pitch them at their level, you know. So diversity, pick up the diversity depending on who's your audience is, industry and size, maybe length of a case, multi-part cases. There are so many options you have. Geographical location of the company. You want to pick up a case which is an Indian company, a Ludhiana company, pick up that. If the students are from Ludhiana, pick up a company, case which is written on a Ludhiana company, maybe Vartamans or Oswald's. And then, do you want to give them some further research option? Then you should be ready with that. So selecting a case is very, very important. And some of these things, for example, let me take you to the Harvard website, because that's what I use most of the time. That's where I buy my cases from. So I know you can see this, but don't try to remember my passwords, okay?
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, I'm pre-logged in. So for example, here, search for, you can search for, say, Parvinder Arora. So you're looking for an author's case. So maybe, so you can search by author. You want to search by, so this is the case. You want to search by company. So say Trident. So Trident is still a force to reckon with in Punjab, Ashwani?
Yes.
Let's see if somebody has written a case on Trident.
Trident Health.
Trident Health. So let's go to, if you want to search a topic, working capital. So working capital, this is where I'll show you some of the things. For example, here, you see this?
Yes.
Click here, that only cases with teaching notes. So sorry for those who are already using this website. I'm just sharing it for a broader audience purpose. So you can click on this. So it is 308 results. If I click on this, it may change. So it comes down to 190. So now it's kind of filtering that what do you want. You want to use a case or you want to use simulation. So you can click on that, so there's only one simulation which is on working capital, but there are 888 cases which has teaching notes. Means it will give you a case, it will give you how to use that case. And then, as I was saying, you want to use the most recent case, you want to use some classic cases. Classic cases you will be able to use only if you know what are the classic cases. And I use a case. When I teach working capital, I use a case which was written in 1992. It is on Dell's working capital, because Dell dominated the industry for 10 years by using their working capital strategies. And I have to teach, and then I teach them what has happened to Dell now, because Dell is nowhere to be seen now. So then the students will be able to connect. Okay, this is how they did it. And when they change their business model, so how old is the case? You want to use the recent cases, last 6 months is. My selection generally is page length. If I'm using cases in an undergraduate class for BBA, I never use cases which are more than 5 pages. So I always click on cases which are 1 to 5 pages, period. That's my criteria. Because I don't want the students to read 30 pages, right? If I'm doing an executive MBA where the students come only on the weekend and then they come after 1 month, I give them 30-page case. Because one, they have the ability to deal with those situations. Secondly, we meet only once a month, so they have plenty of time to prepare. So you can choose, and if you're using, there are some digital cases available now. So if you click on duration, there are some cases where the students have to watch a video just for 10 minutes. There are some cases where they have to watch a video for 1 to 2 hours, right? So are you using those cases which are come with the supplementary videos? So then you have to see how much time do they have to spend on the video, right? So you have, and then you want to source, then you want to use, are you teaching students from Singapore? Use the case which is written by NTU. You have, you teaching Indian, for example, let me see, you have cases written by IIM Bangalore. You have cases written by ISP Hyderabad, right? So these are contributors. So again, it gives you so much of flexibility, and choose your case on the basis of who are you going to teach and what are you going to teach, where are you going to teach. So this will be, and there is, you can, if you're going to do, you know, let's say you are teaching the same course for the students of hospitality, pick up cases from hospitality industry. But you're teaching accounting, you're teaching working capital, but you want the students to connect with your, pick up the cases from hospitality, right? So that they can, for example, we have a course on accounting for students of health management. So they want to, you know, we teach them accounting. Why don't I pick up a course of a case which is in accounting, but it is accounting in a hospital? So that will be the connecting point. The industry, geography, Asian cases, European cases, and of course, author. You're not interested in author. You will be interested in author only if your friend has written a case and you want your friend to make some money out of it. So use those cases, you know. So going back to you know, what I was talking about is selection of a case is very important for you, you know. And then there are a few more points. Again, are you using face-to-face? Are you using synchronous? If I'm doing synchronous, I may use a longer case, but if it is asynchronous, if it is synchronous, I will be using a small case. If they're doing it at home, maybe I can use it maybe a bigger case. So depending on complexity of the case also matters a lot, depending on who you are. Two types of cases. Is anybody actually in this group, anybody teaching PhD level, or, you know?
There are few people only.
Okay.
Only 2-3 professors are there, mostly associate and assistant professors.
Right. So just for those people who are teaching, let's say MBA or master's level, where research, the students have to do a research project, and then there is a capstone, or there is applied learning somewhere. So there are two types of cases: research-oriented cases and teaching cases. Most of the thing which I was talking about is teaching cases. Most of the time we talk about is teaching cases, but in some cases you may be interested in research-oriented cases. Research-oriented cases just looks like a research paper, but it revolves around a particular company. But it relates with the previous research. It relates with some of the theories. It is slightly different. There is not a decision maker. It tells you how good or bad the company's choice was. So it's a different orientation. But most of the time, all the cases on Harvard are teaching cases. They're not research-oriented cases. All the cases on North American Case Research Association's website are research-based cases, because they don't publish teaching cases. So again, this is something. So books, I don't use the cases which are given in the book sometimes, because I find it very narrow in terms of orientation. So this is a website if you are interested in case research. So we call it, so you can become a member of that if you're interested in traveling to America or Canada. So I'm a member of that, so I attend their meetings where plenty of new cases come, people present their cases. So, but they publish a journal which is only research-based cases. These are some of the websites which provide you with the research-based cases. It looks like something like this. It looks like a research paper. I'm showing you maybe a little bit of selling of myself. This was my very first case study which I published with Dr. Vaidya, and when I was in UBS. This is based on something happening in your city. This is based on Vartman. So that was the ever case which I published, and it was a research-oriented case because at that time we were trying to write a research paper. And the case which I shown you earlier on Harvard website, that is a teaching case, purely a teaching case. And I have used that case in Singapore, where the CEO of that company will be actually coming to my class to listen to what the students are saying, and then he will tell what he did when he decided that. So it can be so, but most of the time case teaching is all about using teaching cases rather than. So when it comes to teaching cases, the biggest data source is the Harvard Business Publishing, the website which I just showed you. And then you have IB cases. This is Canadian, Richard Ivey Business School in Canada. This is the second largest in the world. First is, of course, Harvard. So, and the third is the Case Center, which is becoming very popular in India. Case Center doesn't have its own cases. What they do is they sell the cases published by all the other people. So Case Center is becoming very popular. I learned from some of my Indian friends in IIT Ghaziabad that they buy cases from the Case Center. So these are Darden and another. So these are some of the resources you can pick up, and they have all the buttons which I showed you. So long case, short case, industry, when was it written, which language, which country, everything. So pick up the cases accordingly when you are deciding on this. Go for a full-blown teaching case. If you're using it for teaching, just go for a full-blown teaching case. And the three things you should look for. That is why I don't use some of the cases which are published in books. My experience is now, most of my friends who are into case teaching, we don't use those cases which are published in books unless they are authenticated, published by case publishing house. So there has to be a decision maker in that case. That's what I was talking about. The students will be actually taking a position of that decision maker. There is a context and there is a supporting data. So I gave you the example of my case, for example. So you have to have three things in that case. The students have to assume the position of someone in that company in order to. So again, even in Harvard, the teaching cases can be again three types of cases, and most of you should be interested in. Okay, this is where I wanted to share some ideas with you specific to online. Three types of cases. One is decision case, another is problem case, another is evaluation case. This entirely depends on the audience. So decision case is where you want the students to assume a position of a decision maker and ask them what alternative will you be picking up. The problem cases are you want them to you give them a case where there is some problem and you want them to it's more of a problem solving kind of no alternatives. There is one problem which has to be solved by using one or two concepts. So you want to slightly different from the decision case. Now, I used to use plenty of decision cases if I'm in face-to-face. When I'm in online, I move slightly from decision to a problem cases where I give the problem to the student assume, and they give me a solution. Because I teach accounting and finance, it's easy because most of the things are driven by analyzing that financial information. Evaluation cases are if you're teaching an MBA or higher level, use the evaluation case. Evaluation case is learning from the success or failure of a company. Most of the time, you're not asked to make any decisions. You're not asked to solve any problem. The case is about what was the issue company was facing, what decision did they take, and what happened after that. So what you want is you want the students to analyze whether it was a right decision. Sometimes you know what happened after that. Sometimes you don't know what happened. You know what was the problem, what was the decision company took, and then you want the students to analyze, is it a right decision or a wrong decision? When I teach on MBA level specifically, I use most of the cases which are evaluation cases. When I teach undergraduate, most of the cases are problem cases. When I teach online, most of the cases are problem cases. But when I teach at graduate level, means postgraduate, then I use decision cases where I want the students to assume that they are the decision makers. So pick up the cases, depending on again what is the context. We'll skip this some of the things because I know I've spoken more than I was supposed to. What do you want to use that case in? How do you want to use it? What is the expectation? You want them to discuss it. It will work if you're doing it synchronously. It's like, again, as I said, it's like a script. Case is like a script that somebody has to show the performance. So you want the students to discuss it. If you want them to discuss it, probably you need face-to-face or synchronous, if you, or offline discussion can be through forums, discussion forums, etc. Or sometimes we ask them, okay, analyze this case and submit your analysis. So you want to, this is becoming more and more common now. So what is some of my friends are using is they give a case, they give the context of the case, they do a half-an-hour Zoom session, and then they ask the students, okay, this is how you have to analyze, this is the questions you have to answer, and submit those. And then they read all those answers, submitted by the student, and then they do another session where they give a feedback on who has done what and what was the variation and why are those variations, and they ask the questions during that. So it is not a full-blown discussion case, but there is discussion is happening, which is a passive discussion after the students have given their thought. So you want to do that. Many of you would love to give the case to the students and ask them to make a presentation. This is the situation, deal with this situation, make a presentation. Your life is easy. And that is the best time to assess the students if you're using them to, make a presentation. But if you're doing all your cases by student presentation, God bless you, they will lose interest after 1 or 2 presentations. So maybe use a combo of different things. And then, 2 ways we use the cases. Probably this will be the last thing, and then probably I will ask you, few, we can go back to maybe a dialogue, a little bit of. Sometimes this is the last and the most important thing, sometimes we use case to reinforce the theoretical understanding, and sometimes we use a case to go backward from specific to generalization. And 2 are different pedagogies. Let me give you an example. You are teaching market segmentation. So you teach them what is market segmentation, what Kotler said, what are the theories behind it, how should you do it, what are the variables you have to see, who are your consumers, blah blah. So you teach them all the theory. If you're teaching finance, you have taught them capital budgeting, NPV, IRR, and so on. And then you say, okay, this is the case now. Tell me, will you take up this project? So that means the students have to do capital budgeting analysis. Sometimes, if the audience is mature, you just give them a case. Will you invest in this project? They may or may not know anything about capital budgeting. So then they start looking at it. Most of the time they have some experience on taking decisions. So they start looking at how much will they be making, how much do they need to invest. They do some right and wrong analysis. Some of them do right analysis. And then you tell them, you know what? There is something called as, so what you did is actually taking care of time value of money. Explain what is time value of money. Then it is, rather than adding it up, you should have calculated NPV. What is this? How is it different from what you did? So it is from specific to generalization or generalization to application. And most of you, when you use cases, I can guarantee you use that, you teach the theory and then give them a case and then apply. So it is from theory to application. But when you are teaching mature students, it is fun because trouble them and let them think of this, so then teach them, take them back to the theories that this is generalization. Especially this works, especially those finance professors who are sitting here. If you're teaching dividend policy, never teach them dividend theories. Give them examples, give them the case where the company has given the dividend and something about dividend, and then teach them that, okay, dividend theory is still not, we don't have consensus on what works and what doesn't work. So it will be much easier. But if it is undergraduate, then moving from okay, so the most important part of this is the role of instructor is to ask questions. Okay, so this is where I wanted to, if you can read this. In this whole process, generalization to specific or specific to generalization, what is your role? Students will be doing some analysis. Your role is to ask right kind of questions. If you're teaching the case which I gave you, then we will open that. What kind of questions will you ask the students when they are? Sometimes they are doing the analysis which you want. Sometimes they are not discussing the point which you want them to discuss. How will you bring them? So this would be probably some of you have already figured out what this case is all about. It is one of the simplest cases.
3 minutes. We have
Okay, that's my last thing, Ashwani.
Okay.
That's the last thing. So maybe if you want a little bit of participation. So we have left only 8 minutes. So my apologies. The planning went a little off. So I wanted to keep 15 minutes for this last segment. So if somebody has to ask questions, what would be those questions? Anybody wants to share? Anyways, if we want to save time, we can skip this section. This is my last piece. This is my second last slide. So do we want to do this exercise, or let's leave that? Okay, let me just, in case somebody wants to post something. Anybody has any questions? Okay, Ashwini, sorry for.
We had a few questions in chat box.
Okay, one by one. Let's do it one by one.
I'll take the important one. Somebody wanted to understand the difference between simulation and a case method teaching study.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, should I answer this question, or do you want to be? Okay, let me take one by one. Let me answer this question. So the basic difference between simulation and case is simulation is a case which is available on some digital platform. Number one. Number two, in case, when you're doing a case analysis, what you're doing is you asking the students to perform some basic analysis. In simulation, most of the time the focus is only on decision making. What the students have to do is, students have to pick up some alternatives which are given, click on, the analysis is done by the software. So they don't have to do those basic calculations. Those are done by the software. The students has to focus on the decision making. That's the basic difference. It is a case study, but it saves a lot of time. The students don't have to work on data analysis. The data analysis will be, students have to pick up the assumptions, and the analysis will be automatically done. And it is done real time, so students can actually do multiple iterations of those. So that's a basic difference. It's a case study transferred to a digital platform where the software is using doing the calculations. They don't have to do the calculation. But basic idea, basic philosophy is same. It revolves around decision making.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ashwani, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Parvinder. Thank you very much. Your lecture has many takeaways. If I was just noting it down that basically whatever method of teaching you adopt, basically teaching is teaching, and the teacher's role is very important, and he has to act that like he's acting on the stage, and to attract the audience and infuse the basic purpose which we want to have in the education. So there are so many things which you have talked about, that our communication theory and teacher's role as a facilitator, and virtually it is possible, and with the virtuality now it's become very easy that we can approach the students and everything, but whatever we were doing in the offline class also, that is expected. But few things which you have said, that a teacher has to prepare themselves and set the students' expectations well in advance. Well crafted online content should be there, and then read cases and teaching notes before we send it to the students, and that after that expect same thing from the students also. The biggest problem in India is that most of the teachers do not read. In the earlier program also, one of our resource person is a Punjabi poet. He said that most of the teachers complain, parents complain that their wards do not study even at the maturity level. And the most important thing is, the answer to that question is key. Students do not read because the teachers do not read. They don't have the reading habits. So case method of teaching is very, very important, but you have to use it very cautiously, because if you are not able to attract the students' interest into that, then it means something is faulty at your preparedness level. So thank you very much, sir. So it is an honor for all of us that you have come to this portal. We will continue to have your guidance, because all of us who are sitting here are just pupils of Dr. Parvinder Arora. He is a friend also, but guide and philosopher also. So whatever we are doing.
You are embarrassing me. You're making me feel very old now.
Yes.
And I want to tell the audience that because despite this, Ashwani and I, we are in the same age and
Yes.
all in the same.
Yes, we are of the same age.
Just that
That's why I said that
he's
a friend also, brother also, and guide also. So
yeah,
I remember all those days when we were. I was there in IMT Ghaziabad to finalize my thesis, and the hospitality like equal brother and two brothers were enjoying there, and those days are. This is the quality of a teacher, that how he address. I caught the teachers like Dr. J.R. Singhal. I know when we were in the PGI and he was on the deathbed, and he handed over my hand to you to ensure that his thesis should be finalized. So this is the quality of the teachers. Basically, a teacher is a role player. If he played his role on the stage efficiently, students are definitely going to get something out of it. So
yeah, absolutely.
I request now Vikasdeep to present the vote of thanks on behalf of PCMA. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Dr. Parvinder, sir, I would say it was truly mesmerizing. Like, I don't know, what's 3 hours almost, and like we didn't have the time to even like blink our eye, or maybe we have been doing case studies, but like the way you told, like I think we have been doing it all wrong. So lot of new things to learn. Like there is a new perspective, there is a new perspective, and we have to look at that way also. And I think there are very important takeaways, sir. The preparation, and the most important I think is, like whenever we are preparing for case study method, I think the learning objectives, pedagogy, and assessment, I think these three linkages, they are very important, which is like a very important takeaway for me. And then like preparation is the key, and other issues like which you discussed about case study. I think like we look forward to have much longer sessions with you, maybe 2 days, 3 days, a workshop which is purely dedicated to case teaching methodology only. And we are highly thankful to you, sir, for sparing your valuable time. We know like it's very difficult to spare time at, especially during this pandemic situation when everything is in the virtual world. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We are highly blessed, sir. Thank you.
No, thank you
Over
so
to
much.
Dr. Bhalla, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Parvinder, for your
two words. I just want to thank everyone, those of who stayed for such a long time, because listening to somebody like me for 2.5 hours can be a torture, but you stayed. Thank you so much. And thanks, Ashwani, for connecting me with people from Punjab specifically, or from India. It was long overdue. I do some work, but it is with a very small audience,
So we have participants from 14 states, sir. The participants are from 14
excellent.
states.
Then I'm blessed. Thank you so much. At least some of you will remember my face when you're traveling to Canada. I know Canada is the favorite destination for many Indians, and if we bump into each other, just say hi. I may not, recognize your face because I've not seen many of you, but just say hi, and maybe we can share a cup of coffee at some place. Thank you so very much, and thanks for the kind words, Ashwani.
For the information of the participants, tomorrow we will be starting at 3:30 for a reviewer session. So Dr. J.K. Gulati will be reviewing the today's session tomorrow at 3:30. So thank you, Vikas. Thank you.
Sir, there is another important announcement, sir. Tomorrow's Blackboard session will be over Zoom. We will not be sending a direct Blackboard link. It will be over Zoom. So like we'll be sending you a Zoom ID, and through Zoom we'll be working on Blackboard. Right? Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir. Thank you.
Have a good evening and good night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm closing the meeting formally.
Okay.
Thank you.